Welcome to Hell with 2020. This is your special Sound Off Inbox Edition, New Year's Eve style here for December 31st. I am the Solomonster. You like? You like? I know it's mirrored the wrong way. It's backwards. Don't worry about that. I was so giddy when I saw these in the store. I said I had to buy a pair for the stream tonight. Light up the mood. I have a festive mood here tonight. I am so glad that you guys are joining me, spending your New Year's Eve with my ridiculous ass. I'm going to take these off. Oh, don't worry. These are going to come back a little bit later. We're going to be here a while. We're going to be here for at least the next couple of hours, all the way to midnight. At least I'm on the East Coast, so we're working off New York time here. So, depending on where you are, your New Year may have already begun, or if you're out west, your New Year may start later than ours here in New York, but hey, we're going by New York time. We're going to have a countdown on your screen. In fact, let me bring it up here. I think we're all synced up with the same countdown that they're using for Times Square. I guess Times Square, they're doing a virtual countdown this year, I believe. So everything should be synced up properly. I hope so. I want to go by the Times Square ball drop countdown, so you'll see that on your screen, and periodically we'll check in to see how much time is left. And knowing me, I'll probably be in the middle of answering a question, won't realize that it's midnight. You guys in the chat will have to remind me, but anyway, that is the countdown. We are counting down to midnight. What we're doing here is throwing it to you. We're answering your questions. I have pooled 16 email questions together. And between your email questions and your super chats, we are going to be answering anything and everything wrestling related, non-wrestling related. There's a few of those in there as well. Remember in the last inbox for the 13-year anniversary last month, I answered almost 90 questions in one night. See if we can top that here tonight. So you will see super chats popping up on your screen throughout the night. I will read each and every single one of them. If you send in questions, we will answer them as we go along here. And I want to just spend a few minutes here at the outset, because I was live on YouTube last night talking about AEW Dynamite, and I think it was the finest 2 hours of television that AEW has ever produced. Their tribute to Brodie Lee, a celebration of life. Nothing but positive feedback to the show. A lot of WWE stars were very emotional watching the show last night. All eyes were on that show. I mean, everybody, no matter what promotion you were in, no matter what what company you're a fan of, everybody was tuned into that show last night, and they knocked it out of the park. They did a tremendous job, I thought. The way they handled the situation with the family and seeing Brodie Jr. There's a great video that John Silver of the Dark Order posted earlier today. He shot on his cell phone last night in the locker room with Brodie Jr., who was... This kid is a menace with that kendo stick. He is whacking everybody with that kendo stick full force. He's beating the hell out of John Silver. He's beating the hell out of Orange Cassidy, Alex Reynolds, anybody he can get his hands on. It was great. Can't say enough good things about the way that they handled that show last night. I know some of you in the chat are asking about ratings. The ratings don't really matter this week. They did come out. The show did 977,000 viewers, but not important. Ratings out the window this week. So it's not about that. It was about celebrating the life and legacy of somebody who obviously cared, was a big part of that company, and a lot of people cared very deeply about And kudos to AEW on the job that they did last night. And by the way, the theme song that they use in the show closing tribute video, I think they said it was a Tom Waits song. Tony Khan bought the rights to the song in perpetuity so that forevermore, anytime they want to air that tribute video, they will have the rights to do so. So he went out, got the rights to it. I thought it was a very well put together video, and can't say enough good things, man. It was a tough show to watch, but also I think in a lot of ways very cool to see that kind of outpouring of support for someone in a way that I don't think we frankly have seen in many years. A lot of comparisons to Owen Hart, Eddie Guerrero on that level. And I want to also make sure that I point out, if you are not aware and you do want to support the family in some way, AEW has put together a t-shirt in tribute to Brodie Lee. And you will see it on your screen here. Exalted in Heaven, all proceeds to benefit the family of Brodie Lee. It is available right now at shopaew.com. I picked up my shirt earlier this morning and would encourage you all to go check it out. It's a pretty cool shirt. So shopaew.com. It is now officially the fastest selling t-shirt in a 24-hour period in the history of pro wrestling tees. I think the previous record was Sting just a few weeks ago when he made his AEW debut, and now Brodie Lee just blew that out of the water. So if you want to support, that's one way to do so. Again, shopaew.com. And a very, very cool thing for the company to do. So we got people filing on in here. Okay, we're going to be here for the next couple of hours, just talking wrestling, answering questions, talking about whatever it is that you guys might want to talk about. I have a whole bunch of email questions lined up for you. We see Bryant in the chat says he ordered his shirt yesterday. Very cool. Yeah, a lot of people did. A lot of people emailed me this morning feedback for Dynamite and saying they picked up their shirt as well. So what we'll do here is we will break into the questions, and if you are getting a little bit of lag, it should go away. Give it a little bit of time. We got people coming in. We got tons of questions here logged in the program. You're going to be seeing them on your screen. So if you do experience a little bit of lag, I apologize, but it it should resolve. Yeah, and if the audio is out of sync, again, that should resolve as we go along here on the stream. Always hate when that happens. Always with the big streams. Always with the big streams. We have the issues with the mouth and the audio's all out of sync. So anyway, bear with me. Let us break into some of the early super chats that we have coming in. Why don't we do some of those first before we move along here. Earlier today, before I even went live, Hashway dropping a $10 super chat. Just wanted to show my support in case I was sleeping and could not be with you all during the stream. Because the stream starts at 4 a.m. where I live. Yeah, Hash forgot exactly where he said he was. It might be in the Middle East. He's quite a ways away. So I appreciate him showing some support. The Game DX15. Happy New Year, Solomonster. To hell with 2020. Welcome to the Sound Off into the new year. And he wants to know, who is your breakout star in WWE and AEW for 2021? Well, I think in WWE, I would like to think Keith Lee is going to take it to the next level. I would like to think that they would call up some faces from NXT and actually do right by them. Rhea Ripley, people like that. In AEW, take your pick. I mean, after last night, a lot of people seem to think that the Dark Order is poised for bigger things now. 2021, John Silver. Right? John Silver is a big fan favorite. I think Hangman Page will do well. Darby Allin. Sammy Guevara. I think Sammy Guevara is due for a breakout year as well. Oh yeah, well, everybody's talking about what they're drinking tonight. I suppose I should chime in here, because I did come prepared here for the stream. I was told that this was a good choice, and so I was actually gifted this, and I figured this would be a good time to break it open here for the special occasion tonight. Not usually a wine drinker, but I thought, why not give it a shot? Yellowtail Moscato. So we have an Australian wine, very sweet Australian wine, if you can see it here on camera. There it is. Yellowtail Moscato. So we're going to give that a try. A little bit of wine here tonight as we ring in the new year. Bob Rouse in the chat says Coke Zero. Well, that's a fine choice. You know what? Water's a good choice too. I'll be drinking that as we go along as well. Always got to stay hydrated. But tonight it's a Yellowtail night for Solomonster. Now, before we get to the emails, I suppose we should just talk a little bit about this year. Why are we saying to hell with 2020? You see the artwork on your screen. 2020 has been a year that in a lot of ways we would like to forget. We would like to put it behind us. For the obvious reason, right? The virus and the impact the virus has had on everything. The impact the virus has had on the wrestling industry. No fans in the buildings. Make for some very dull shows. And I, for one, cannot wait until we are able to get back to having packed crowds in the buildings again and getting those big crowd reactions. You know, what a night it would have been to have a building of 10,000 people for the Brodie Lee tribute last night. What a night it would have been to have a packed crowd when Brodie Lee debuted in his hometown as part of the Dark Order, which never happened. So it was a year of loss. In general, a lot of people lost loved ones in the wrestling business. A lot of names lost. Older folks, younger folks. I know for a lot of people, you may have lost your job. You may have fallen on tough times financially. I mean, any number of things have gone wrong for a lot of people this year. And so now you hope to turn the page and that 2021 will bring bigger and better things. Things you don't snap out of it when the calendar turns to January 1st. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and all the bad stuff is over, but you hope that as we go through these next 12 months, things will begin to improve and we'll be in better shape a year from now than we are today. So I say to hell with 2020, and I welcome the new year. But I do have to say, 2020 has been a great year for the show. For the podcast, the show has grown. We have grown our audience. We have grown the YouTube channel. In large part because of a lot of you who are joining here tonight and how supportive you guys have been. And I see much bigger and better things for the show in 2021. I have a lot of different ideas. I'm very excited to see where the show will go. I hope you enjoyed that little highlight package I put together earlier in the week, which is on the YouTube channel, if you didn't see it. So as far as the podcast, very rewarding, very fulfilling year. But like a lot of you, hoping for much better as we head into 2021. So, with that being said, let's go to email number 1. And this question comes from our good friend Scott in Salford, UK. With their history at WrestleMania, can you see Sheamus and Daniel Bryan being the last 2 in the Royal Rumble? Sheamus cost Bryan his shot, which builds to Bryan exercising his demons by beating Sheamus for the world title in 2022. Or are world's worst entertainment not capable of that kind of long-term storytelling? Well, I think Sheamus is going to challenge Drew McIntyre for the championship, probably at the Royal Rumble. I was kind of hoping that if, obviously they may not do McIntyre and Reigns if they're on different brands. McIntyre and Sheamus is the match that they've been building towards now for several weeks. I don't know if they're going to hold off that long. So it looks to me like they may be building to a Sheamus match at the Rumble, and if that's the case, then I wouldn't expect him to be in the Royal Rumble match. Unless they do an angle where Sheamus were to lose in a competitive, friendly match against his best bud, and then he ends up in the Rumble match later on that night. And maybe he does eliminate Daniel Bryan in the end to win. And that's how Sheamus gets himself a rematch with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. You could do that. You could do something like that, a little bit of a swerve. But if we assume that they're going to do the match at the Rumble, then he's not going to be in the Rumble match. And I'll tell you what, I'm not really a fan of the idea. I don't like that idea. Now, Daniel Bryan, you talk about long-term storytelling? Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, you've got a long-term story arc that you can tell with those two guys going back 5 years. You have long-term storytelling right there. And that, I think, is the match that you want to do. And also, keep in mind, Bryan has been talking in a lot of his interviews about slowing down. You know, he doesn't see himself being a full-time wrestler for much longer. You know, he wants to go part-time. He wants to focus more on being a dad. So you really don't know how much longer you're going to have Bryan around for these big programs. You know, it seems like he's kind of resigned to winding his full-time career down a little bit. I think that now is the time to do the Reigns story. I don't think you wait on it. You know, Big E, they had other plans for Big E. They're going to take their time with him. He's got the Intercontinental title, and that's fine. Daniel Bryan is the one who makes the most sense. To have Sheamus win and then do Bryan Sheamus a year from now, I'm all for long-term stories, but I just don't think that one is in the cards. Let's go to Trust from Zimbabwe. By the way, the lag should have resolved for you guys. I see my CPU has calmed down a little bit, so if it hasn't, let me know. And it may go up and down as we go along. Just be aware of that, but it should have hopefully settled down for most of you. My computer gets very excited because it knew tonight was a special night, and he gets all excited, and I'm like, easy there, boy. Easy there, boy. Trust from Zimbabwe. He started listening to the podcast in 2010 during his studies in Germany. And now he is back home. So good to hear from him all the way over in Zimbabwe. Should the Money in the Bank ladder match take a hiatus? At the moment, the briefcase means nothing. The initial cash-in, or cash-ins, used to be memorable, but now they just blend together and have not made any stars. Would it freshen the concept by putting it on the shelf for a couple of years and then bringing it back? Alternatively, they could switch off and have the men's Money in the Bank 1 year and the women's Money in the Bank a different year. I don't think it's necessary. I think switching off and doing it that way is not necessary. It's not a solution for bad creative. If you are not enamored with the way that they've been doing Money in the Bank cash-ins, that has nothing to do with the fact that they happen every year. And it has everything to do with how they have booked the Money in the Bank cash-ins. So I don't think we can blame the frequency of Money in the Bank. Like, take the Royal Rumble. It would be like saying, because we had a stretch there for a while of bad Royal Rumbles, which we did a few years ago, well, why don't we just skip the Royal Rumble for a year? Let's recharge the batteries. We'll come back in 2 years with another Royal Rumble. People aren't going to like that. And it's completely unnecessary and counterproductive. It's not the Royal Rumble's fault that the Royal Rumble sucked that year. You can't blame the Royal Rumble. You can't blame the briefcase. You can blame Vince McMahon and bad creative. At the end of the day, they have to do a better job. Money in the Bank should be treated in a more serious way and not, playing hot potato, bouncing the briefcase around to a bunch of morons. Which is kind of what they've done this year. So I don't like that idea. I don't really think that solves anything. But I thought it would be a good exercise here to just run through all of the Money in the Bank men's winners that we have had so far. He's talking about how Money in the Bank being used as a way to create new stars, which is not really, I think, what Money in the Bank was originally conceived to do. It would be nice if you can use Money in the Bank 1 year to help make a new star. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's, a fine idea. But I don't know that you necessarily need to make a new star with Money in the Bank. It's kind of a bonus if you happen to do that. But let's take a look at some of these winners. So obviously it goes back to Edge. a very memorable Money in the Bank cash-in. He was the very first person to do it. And if you remember, Edge went on in 2006 to become a headliner. He went on to become a main event player in WWE. Didn't happen right away. He was champion for a few weeks. He lost the belt to John Cena. He slid back down the card a little bit, had that great feud with Mick Foley, which I think also helped, as much as the Money in the Bank did, really cement him as a headliner in that company. But by the end of the year, he was the champion again. He was having matches with John Cena. Money in the Bank did wonders for Edge. So did screwing Matt Hardy's girlfriend, but I wouldn't advise that people coming out of NXT go ahead and do that. But it did help. So he was the first. Rob Van Dam was the second, and Rob Van Dam did something that not too many other people have done. RVD was the first guy to announce in advance, I am going to cash in on you. And he cashed in on John Cena at One Night Stand, and he won the championship. He didn't do the backdoor way into the title where he, attacks somebody when they're exhausted after their match, because he was a babyface. And he's going to go face to face and look you in the eye and say, look, I'm going to cash in on you. I'm going to tell you where. I'm going to tell you when. And he followed through and he did it. And Rob Van Dam in 2006 was WWE champion and he was ECW champion. He was on top of the world and then he got arrested. Got pulled over. And that was the end of the Rob Van Dam push. Can't really blame anybody else for that. Money in the Bank did wonders, though, for Rob Van Dam. We move ahead. Mr. Kennedy won Money in the Bank. Kennedy said that he was going to hold on to the briefcase until WrestleMania the following year and then cash in. And then only a few weeks later, he got hurt. And they thought he might need surgery. They thought the injury was more serious than it was. They took the briefcase away from this poor bastard. They had Edge win it from him, only to find out that it was a deep bruise. He didn't need surgery. So they really never had to take the briefcase off him in the first place. And in a lot of ways, that changed the trajectory of his career. He was never the same after that. So who knows what Money in the Bank could have done for Mr. Kennedy? That's one of those what-if cases we just don't know the answer to. We had, I said it went back to Edge. CM Punk won it twice. CM Punk's first cash-in was a complete waste. He did become the champion, but if I remember, I don't think he even technically lost the title. He got beaten up before the main event on a pay-per-view, and they took the title away from him. It was a very forgettable run. I remember the night that he cashed in. He got the assist from Batista. Batista beat up Edge. Punk cashed in. He won the title, but a very forgettable run for Punk after that. His second run was more memorable. We had Jack Swagger win Money in the Bank and beat Chris Jericho to become the champion. Kane won Money in the Bank, and I think later that same night cashed in on Rey Mysterio and won the title. The Miz, the current Mr. Money in the Bank, with the cash-in 10 years ago. Angry Miz Girl was not happy when Miz won the title from Randy Orton. And they tried with The Miz. They tried to make a new star. They tried to make a main eventer with The Miz. Up to that point, it was the biggest push, the biggest opportunity he had ever gotten in his entire life. I remember the match he had with Jerry Lawler on TV. Actually, it was two. I think it was two matches, right? It was a Raw match. That the ladder match. And there was a match, I think, at the... What pay-per-view would that have been? No Way Out? Because I don't think they were doing Elimination Chamber. And maybe they were. Maybe it was the Elimination Chamber show. Got a great video package at WrestleMania for his match with John Cena. Miz was not ready for that run. And that WrestleMania main event at WrestleMania 27 did not feel like a WrestleMania main event. It felt like too much, too soon. And after that, Miz really has not ever gotten back to that level. Miz has been a constant player in this company. He's won every title, pretty much almost every title there is to win. I guess, except the Universal. But is he going to cash in successfully now and become the champion? If they want to swerve everybody, I guess they could. I still don't. You know what, though? I got to say, the fact they gave him back the briefcase on Monday is probably an indication that there's a chance that they may well be thinking about putting the title on him. Why would he lose Money in the Bank and then get it back only to lose again? That would make him the ultimate Money in the Bank loser. He'd be the first person to lose Money in the Bank twice. I mean, he already looks like a loser on TV most weeks anyway. I guess this really wouldn't be any different. But that was 10 years ago when he first cashed in. Daniel Bryan cashed in. We had Alberto Del Rio. We had Dolph Ziggler. We had John Cena. We had Damian Sandow. And I'm going to talk about Ziggler. I didn't just gloss over Ziggler. But I want to talk about Damian for a second here. Jared M. dropping the $105 super chat here on New Year's Eve. Jared is one of our mainstays on all of the streams. Jared, brother, you have been one of my biggest supporters all year long here in 2020, and I can't thank you enough, man. Always enjoy chatting with Jared. Always enjoy his support. Thank you, man. And that is, I believe, so far the biggest super chat of the night. Thank you very much. But now we talk about Damian Sandow. Damian Sandow, at that time when he won Money in the Bank, I was at that show where he won Money in the Bank. I think he pushed Cody Rhodes off the ladder and took the briefcase. That was 2013. I was at that show in Philadelphia. And there were a lot of people pulling for Damian Sandow to win the big one and become the, whatever it was, the world champion, the WWE champion. And Kevin Eck was a writer for WWE at that time. And many years ago, I think he wrote a blog on, I don't know if it was his website or for a website he was writing for. And he talked about the decision for Money in the Bank that year. It came down to two choices. It was either going to be Damian Sandow or it was going to be Wade Barrett. And both guys had a lot of supporters who were vouching for them and politicking for them and pulling for them. And ultimately, the decision was made to go with Damian Sandow. Turns out that there were plans to make Damian Sandow the world champion. And what ended up happening is Vince McMahon soured on the idea. He soured on Damian Sandow. And after he won Money in the Bank, he went on this horrific losing streak. It was something, I think it was something like, I had looked it up, 1-12, I think was his record on Raw and SmackDown in the weeks and the months that followed his Money in the Bank win. He went 1-12. And this was something they did repeatedly back then. If you won Money in the Bank, oh, well, you know, we could beat them. It doesn't matter because they have the briefcase. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that the more that this guy lost and was made to look like a fucking loser, Vince McMahon eventually came to the realization that I've made a terrible mistake. This guy doesn't have it. He's a loser. Yeah, he's a loser because you booked him to lose. It's your fucking show. If you wanted him to be undefeated for the next 3 months, he could have been undefeated. He could have been the next fucking Goldberg. Not exactly, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's this self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you know, I don't know if I really want to put the belt on him. Let's see if he gets over. Fast forward 6 weeks, he's lost almost every single match. Yeah, you know what? He's not getting over. No shit! What did you think was going to happen? You beat this guy like a drum and you made him look like a loser. So Vince McMahon soured on him. And he changed his mind and he said he's not winning the championship. So that match with Cena, if you remember that match on Raw with Cena, basically what that match was, it was a buried alive match without the gravesite. That was the first buried alive match we had on TV in many years. John Cena had, I think it was an elbow injury or a bicep injury, some kind of arm injury. And Sandow beat the fucking hell out of this guy. He was attacking the arm with the briefcase and with a chair. He hit the arm with a chair on the steps. He did everything to this guy short of breaking his arm. And then the bell rung and he cashed in and he still lost. He lost to a one-armed man. And that was it. He had his run later on as Damien Mizdow. Caught fire with that, but that was a total comedy gimmick. The time to take Damian Sandow seriously died the night that he lost in the way that he did to John Cena on Raw. Now, there is a flip side to this, which is that not everybody can win. Not everybody can win when they cash in their money in the bank. At some point, somebody has to lose. But it's a lot easier for someone like a John Cena or a Randy Orton to lose because those guys are made men. John Cena was the first guy to ever lose money in the bank. Didn't hurt John Cena because he was fucking John Cena. Damian Sandow could have benefited from that, and unfortunately for him, Vince McMahon soured on him. Too bad. All he had to do is just win some matches. Somebody should have told Damian Sandow, make sure when you go out there, you win. If only he knew. I just laugh. When I hear stories like that from people who were there, who worked there, the writers who were in the writers' room, who had these meetings and had these conversations with Vince McMahon, I wonder what goes through their heads as they're hearing this stuff come out of his mouth. Poor Damian Sandow. We had Randy Orton cashing in, right, at SummerSlam. He won Money in the Bank that same year. That was a tremendous swerve. At the end of SummerSlam that year, I thought that was great. When he came out and beat Daniel Bryan, and I was a Daniel Bryan fan, but I thought the way they did that was tremendous. Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania. I mean, need I say more? Sheamus cashed in. He won the title. Dean Ambrose. That was a very cool cash-in. History made that night. All three members of the Shield, Roman Reigns entered as the champion. Seth Rollins beat him for the championship, and Ambrose cashed in and won the championship. All in one night. So that was a memorable one. Baron Corbin. Oh my. Baron Corbin. Well, there's a good example. You want to talk about trying to make a new star with Money in the Bank? Didn't quite work out that way for Baron Corbin. Did not work out that way for Baron Corbin. One of the more, maybe the most, frankly, embarrassing of all the cash-ins. Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, Otis, back to The Miz. The best Money in the Bank cash-ins of all time were Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. Probably in that order. I know Seth Rollins was bigger because it was WrestleMania. It was the main event. I had the great privilege of being there for both shows. Two of the biggest ovations I've ever been part of live, but not bigger than the one Ziggler got at the Izod Center in 2013. I guess it was 2013. That was an unbelievable moment. I mean, when I tell you the building exploded, the building exploded. So by far, the two best Money in the Bank cash-ins, Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. And you can debate me all you want to, but you would be wrong if you debated me on that question. Let us switch over real quick to your Super Chats and pick up with some of your messages and some of your questions. Jkin62, I think I heard from him last night on the AEW stream. Request for Josh Matthews to tell us Happy New Year, 2020 can go screw. Happy New Year, 2020 can go screw. Why do you make me do that? Also, tell us in a Vince Russo voice how he would book the end of 2020. Thank you, Solomonster. Well, you see, bro, everybody thinks 2020 is going to end tonight, bro. But listen, bro, I had this great idea when I was in TNA, bro, working for Dixie Carter. It was called the Reverse Battle Royal. We're going to do a reverse year, bro. Everybody thinks when the calendar turns, bro, it's going to be January 1st. And, bro, let me tell you, it ain't going to be January 1st. It's going to be December 30th. We're going backwards, bro. They won't ever see it coming. It's money. He would do that, right? He would just reverse the year. We'd have to relive this fucking year all over again. Just go in reverse. It's the reverse calendar year. Anyway, thank you, J-Kin. Bro. I have to specify who I'm talking about when I start broing. Matt Riddle is trying to compete with Vince Russo in terms of all the bros. Bro! Anyway, Brian Pacera. Happy New Year, Solomonster. Bro! More bros. Bros before hoes. Being a back-to-back Wrestle Rumble winner, was for me the highlight of 2020. Well, that's what happens when you buy like 50 entries in Wrestle Rumble. He certainly put the effort in, I'll say that much. But yes, Bryant is a two-time winner. He is a two-time winner in the Wrestle Rumble contest. Hopefully more people have a chance to win in 2021, but it's all random. I do it live on the air, and whoever wins, wins. Tibbs316 with the $20. Thanks for a great year. What was your favorite match from 2020? Well, I don't want to give anything away because I'm planning on doing my top 10 matches very soon. I'm aiming to do it on the show on Sunday. It is possible I will not be ready to do it quite that soon. So it's coming, though. If it's not coming on Sunday, it's coming very soon. I am going to be bringing that to you very soon. Naif Al-Safar with the $99.99. Poor Vince McMahon super chat. Look how sad Vince looks. Look at him. Like a little puppy dog. Taking that deep breath. You saw that? You saw that deep breath he had to take? Thinking about all that money he lost. Terrence with the super chat. Happy New Year. Jason, thanks for a great... Who's Jason? Thanks for a great 2020. And buy or sell on what Hulk Hogan run was better. Hogan is a face or Hogan is a heel in the NWO. Hogan is one of the few people who had the kind of success that he had both as a heel and a babyface. But that babyface run is what put him on the map. The babyface run in the AWA is what got him back into WWE in the 80s and convinced Vince McMahon that he was the guy to strap the rocket to and just launch it in the rock and wrestling era. You can't top that. You know, I don't know that I would be a fan today, and some of you guys might not be fans today if things didn't take off when they did with Hogan at the helm back in the mid-'80s. So I got to buy on the babyface run. And EJ, the last live mailbag, you were asked what was the best heel turn of all time. What about the best face turn? I think number 1 is Macho Man at WrestleMania 7. And number 2 is Batista. I'd have to think about that. Macho Man would probably be near the top of my list. That's certainly one of the more memorable ones. But I mean, there have been some great ones. I'd have to... That's potentially a good list question. Maybe for me to put together, but I'm with you. I think Macho would probably be... I mean, I feel like I'm forgetting a big one. But I'd have to go Macho Man right now. I would have to agree. And Brian the Green Boy with the $20. Happy New Year, Solomonster. I'm a huge fan. My question for you is, who do you think plays babyface the best? And who plays heel the best, ranking from most to least out of Daniel Bryan, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, and Johnny Gargano? Well, you just named 4 of the best baby faces of this generation of talent. Every single one of those guys are incredible baby faces. Which makes it funny because, let's see, what is it? Half of them right now are heels. And they're great heels as well. So, you know, you could really go either way with those guys. To me, Daniel Bryan is just the ultimate underdog. And that run from 2013 into 2014 and just kind of getting the fans behind him in the way that they did is a run that's going to be remembered for years to come. I would have to put him, you know, at the top of that list as far as baby faces are concerned. Finn Balor, I would go the opposite way. I think Finn Balor, if you even go back to his days in Japan and the Prince Devitt days, we still haven't seen the best of Balor as a heel. We really haven't seen the best of him as a heel in this company since you joined. Sami Zayn, I very much enjoy Sami as the heel. The fact that he's got diarrhea at the mouth and never shuts up is part of his heel charm. I'd probably, you know, honestly, I would say that he's as good of a heel as he is a babyface, maybe even a little bit better as a heel. And Johnny Gargano, I just find him far more entertaining as a heel. Great babyface, had some great matches as a babyface in NXT, but Definitely nowhere near as entertaining as he is right now in the role that he's in on TV. As the Fiend burns on my screen. There's... Can we get a first... Oh, I'll have to read that when I get back to it. My computer is getting very excited again. It's starting to lag for me. But let's move on. Let's get back... Actually, before we get to the email questions... I should probably take a little bit of this Moscato, right? It's just kind of sitting here. Yellowtail Moscato. Let's have a little bit of wine. Not really a wine guy. I might whine a lot during my podcast about some of the stuff WWE does, but anyway, let's try some of this out. It's good. It's sweet. All you Aussies, all you Aussies, got some pretty good wine. Never tried Yellowtail before. But if you've never tried it, I would recommend it. So anyway, we already talked about trust from all the way in Zimbabwe. We now move on to our next email question, which comes to us from Thomas in Germany. What would you think about a wrestling show naming their cast in the intro? Joe Anoa'i as Roman Reigns, Nick Nemeth as Dolph Ziggler, etc. It would benefit the worker having their real name out there if they ever landed a gig on TV or in another promotion. I do not like that idea. Even though we know what wrestling is today and the curtain has been pulled back so much. And back in the day, wrestling shows did have credits. You know, when Saturday night's main event would go off the air, when the old Slammy Awards would go off the air, they would run credits for the executive producer and different people like that, director. You'd see Kevin Dunn's name and Kerwin Silfies, and they would always stick K-Fabe would be in there, which I always got a kick out of once I realized what that meant. WCW used to run credits at the end of their pay-per-views, but not for the talent. I don't believe ever for the talent. That to me is completely unnecessary. It's just taking it too far. It's just beating people over the head with the fact that, okay, you just sat there and watched this 2-hour or 3-hour show, and you want to believe as you're watching, and then the show ends, and it's like, you know, portraying Roman Reigns tonight was Joe Anoa'i. Why don't we all have them all come out and just do a curtain call, and they could take a big bow in front of the crowd? I mean, at what point do you draw the line? Like, I get what you're trying to say, but if people want Roman Reigns for a movie part, they see Roman Reigns on TV, believe me, they're going to know how to get in touch with Roman Reigns. And if they want to know what his real name is or who his agent is, they have this little tool called Google. It won't be very difficult for them to find Roman Reigns, I promise you. So I'm not worried about them missing out on opportunities like that in today's day and age. Boy, that fiend has been burning up here tonight. It's been popping up on my screen here, but let's get to Kevin in Sycamore, Illinois. Your recent talk about the upcoming AEW wedding got my brain thinking, what are the best and worst wrestling wedding angles? Well, we all love a good wrestling wedding. There have been many of them over the years. I think the first one I could ever remember seeing in my young fandom was probably Uncle Elmer, right? Wasn't that on one of the Saturday Night's main event shows? I believe it was. The Uncle Elmer wedding. There have been some great wrestling weddings, and there have been some god-awful ones. Really. I mean, there have been some just atrocious wrestling wedding angles over the years. I thought the Match Made in Hell, Match Made in Heaven promotion for SummerSlam in 91 was genius. And one of the best parts about that whole thing was during the pay-per-view, as they were kind of previewing things and running things down, Bobby Heenan on commentary, at one point, he mistook the Macho Man Elizabeth wedding coming up as the Match Made in Hell. And Gorilla Monsoon had to tell, you know, we might have gotten an old Gorilla Monsoon, will you stop? And he had to correct him and say, I'm talking about the match. It's like, oh, I thought you were talking about the wedding. The Match Made in Hell. For some people, it is. For some people, it is. Didn't we have somebody, I think, a little bit earlier on in the chat who mentioned that I think he was just served with divorce papers. Was it John? If John's still with us, I'm sorry to hear that. So believe me, for some people, the weddings, they do turn into the match made in hell. It does happen. But you had the post-show angle at the wedding party, right? Everyone's dancing and drinking and having a great time. And then out from the gift box pops the Snake, and that led to the feud. It was actually supposed to lead to a feud with Jake the Snake and Sid Justice, but Sid got hurt. Macho Man ended up in the feud, and we ended up with one of the best rivalries in WWE history, even though it only lasted a few months. To me, that is at the top of the list when you have to rank the best wedding angles in wrestling history. That one, to me, is at number one. Triple H and Stephanie renewing their vows on Raw in 2002. That one also. Yeah, I think people obviously remember Triple H drugging Stephanie and then marrying her at the little Whitechapel of Love in Vegas, crashing the Stephanie test wedding. But when they renewed their vows in 2002, Stephanie lied to Triple H and she faked a pregnancy. She told her that she was having a baby. And in fact, she was not having a baby. This was, I think, leading up to WrestleMania 18. And the fans knew that Triple H knew, and so when they got to the part of the ceremony where the priest turned to Triple H and said that he's going to say a few words, or if you have anything you'd like to tell your bride-to-be, and the crowd is going crazy because they know Triple H is about to just verbally unload on this woman. And he did, and he called her a lying bitch, and went into the whole thing, and Vince McMahon's face lit up, his great facial expressions. Billy and Chuck on SmackDown has to be in the top 3 of greatest wrestling angles of all time. Billy and Chuck, they were committed to that gimmick. They were committed to each other. Rico had promised them that this was going to take them to the next level. And so the big wedding day comes and they have to stop everything because Rico is just letting it go too far. What are you doing? This was all for publicity. You're letting this go too far. You've got the priest with all the makeup on. Of course, we didn't know that the priest was wearing all of the prosthetics. And as he pulls it off, the big reveal that it's Eric Bischoff, who was the Raw GM at the time. Out comes 3-minute warning, both of whom now have passed away, which is very sad. So they attack, and all the SmackDown talent comes out and chases them off. That was a fucking great angle. And the Bischoff reveal was so well done. I did not see that one coming. I don't think very many people did. So even if you were not a Billy and Chuck fan, you got to admit, the payoff made the whole thing worth it. So that would be near the top of the list. Edge and Lita. With Edge and Lita, we had the visual of Kane poking his head up through the mat, making a face that only Kane could make, the face that only a mother could love, and ultimately tombstoning the priest, because why the fuck not, right? That's just what Kane does. As far as the worst, Lashley and Lana. Lashley and Lana. That whole angle was a friggin' disgrace. Reba, look at her in the super chat. That's what I think of Lashley and Lana. That's exactly the face that I made every week when their segment would come on television. Fucking atrocious. Didn't go anywhere. Wouldn't end. Kept going on and on and on, but didn't really build to anything. Certainly didn't get anybody over. Who did that get over? Bobby Lashley has gotten over more in the Hurt Business, just being a fucking badass on television, than he has doing any of these other bullshit angles. Lana? Didn't really do her much good. Rusev, it sure as hell didn't do him any good. Liv Morgan? Remember when Liv Morgan made her big re-debut as what, a lesbian, I guess? Where'd that go? She's right back in the Riot Squad. So every single thing about that angle was a total and complete failure and a total and complete waste of time. Waste of their time, waste of our time. The worst. One of the worst angles that they have ever done. Al Wilson and Dawn Marie, that wasn't much better. Stacy Keibler and David Flair in the dying days of WCW, that sucked. So where Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford land, I guess, we'll have to wait and see. They're going to be getting married on the beach on AEW Dynamite at the beginning of February. We have not seen an AEW wedding yet. So I expect there to be a flip and a dive in there somewhere on the beach. Jacob Donnelly with the $100 bomb here on New Year's Eve with the Monster Mania Super Chat, brother. And it just disappeared, so I didn't see your message. But as we go along, I will read your message. Jacob is one of our loyal listeners. So glad that Jacob could join us here on New Year's Eve, and so glad that you guys can join me. Spend your New Year's Eve with me. I know some of you normally would be out and about, hanging out with friends, or maybe you'd be standing in the middle of New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square wearing a diaper, as most of those people do, because once you get your spot in Times Square, they don't let you leave. So you got to buy some adult diapers and stand out there in the cold. I never understood what possesses people to do that, but to each their own. But you're a lot better off just staying in and watching me tonight. And I thank you for that. Let's get back to some of these super chats here. Let us get back. Actually, this Moscato is pretty good. I'm trying not to go too deep into the wine. I don't know what effect wine would have on me. I usually don't drink wine, so I'm trying to pace myself here. But I'm sure at some point I will. What the hell? A little bit of Moscato, right? Yellowtail. Salute. Very good. Delicioso. Delicioso. Let's go to Ian Israel. What was your favorite Solomonster angry rant? My favorite angry rant? I think they think I enjoy it when I get angry. If it's angry in like a comedic way about like a comedy angle, then it's probably, a lot of fun. But normally, it's not exactly fun. I wish I didn't have to get so angry at some of the stupid shit that they do, but I guess the benefit in it for all of you is that you seem to find it entertaining. So, my favorite angry rant. I don't know if it would be my favorite, but I guess Hell in a Cell last year, was a rant the likes of which I don't know that I've ever done before. Hell in a Cell 2019. It's too bad I wasn't on video for that review. So that's the one that stands out to me. I don't know that I've been that angry about something since that pay-per-view last October. I've definitely gotten angry about some stuff, but I don't know that I've gotten angry quite at that level. JWD82X. If Austin never got hurt, wonder how 99 would have ended and how WrestleMania would have been different. Wonder if it would have changed how his retirement went. Well, I would say you got to go back to 97. If he didn't get hurt in the Owen Hart match, he absolutely would have wrestled for many more years. And we would have gotten a lot of other big-time matches with Austin and John Cena, Austin and Randy Orton, Austin and a lot of different people. Eventually, that neck injury was going to catch up with him no matter what. There it is again. I swear to God, every time that Ultimate Warrior just... every time that super chat pops up on my... I can't not laugh. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. I love it. I love it. Rodimus Prime, thank you for the 35. Happy New Year, Solomonster. Hope 2021 is a hell of a lot better for you. Well, I concur. Same to you, my friend. I hope, however good or bad your 2020 was, only bigger and better. That's what I want for everybody. Only bigger and better. No more doom and gloom. Hopefully we'll start to climb out of all this and we'll be able to see people again. And I look forward to the day when I can start having sound-off meetups again. We could all get together and hang out. I do miss those. I do miss all the meetups. Spanish Goddess, thank you for your tweet earlier. That was very nice of you to say, by the way. Happy New Year, guys. Question, who do you think was better in their prime? Hercules, Big Boss Man, or Rick Martel? Well, it's either Boss Man or Rick Martel. I got to go with Rick Martel. If we're talking prime years, I got to go with Rick Martel, AWA champion before he came to WWE. Don't take anything away from the Boss Man, though, especially when he first dropped all that weight. Boss Man can move. Boss Man does not get the credit I believe that he should. People talk about big men, great big men in wrestling history. They talk about Vader. They talk about Undertaker. They talk about Bam Bam Bigelow. And even Andre, frankly. Andre in his prime before his body started to break down on him. I don't know that Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man, gets the credit that he really deserves. He was very good. Utkarsh Raj with the $20. Love you, Solomonster. Been listening since 2012. Episode 209. Wow. That is a long time. You are single-handedly the best wrestling podcaster ever. Keep up the amazing work. Rest in peace, MF Doom. I did see that. MF Doom, 49 years old, passed away. Now, did he pass away just this week, or did he pass away... I saw maybe it was Halloween, and then maybe the news just came out now. I was only looking at that before I came on the air, so I'm not sure of all the details, but yeah, 2020 has claimed another one here. Another well-known name. Ashley Zarzor, Happy New Year. Please let 2021 be better than 2020. I think we can all agree on that. Let's go back to your emails. If I can get this friggin' thing to work. There we go. There we go. Let's get back to your emails as we'll do more super chats here in a little bit. Actually, before I do that, let us, because again, you guys got to make sure I don't forget here. We got to check the countdown and see where we are. We are now less than an hour away. Here we are talking about to hell with 2020. We've got 57 minutes and 22 seconds left of this horrendous year before we get the chance to start new. So we're going to be ringing in the new year here in a little bit. I got my light up glasses. I got my party hat. I got my kazoo. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't think I didn't come prepared now. I actually haven't tried to blow on it yet. I don't usually blow on these things, but... oh, there we go. All right. It kind of made a noise. So we're ready to go. We're ready to go at the top of the hour. We'll come back to that countdown here in a little bit. Coggies in the chat says, kazoo party. I'm not as good on the kazoo as Edge and Christian used to be. Let's go to our next emailer. Overseas, Jim in Chichester, UK. I hope I pronounced that right. Vince McMahon has agreed to an interview with you. He has set the terms, of course. He will allow you 3 questions in which he is obliged to answer each one honestly. What would you ask him? Well, I know exactly what I would ask him. And I've gotten this question before, and my answers really haven't changed all that much. What was in the briefcase is question number 1. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it goes back to the whole Jimmy Snuka thing. Jimmy Snuka murdered a woman, be it accidentally or otherwise, and got away with it, I believe. And as the story goes, Vince McMahon was seen walking into the police station with a briefcase. Nobody knew what was in the briefcase, but he was there to meet with the police and I believe Snuka as well. Snuka's the one who told the story in his book. Nobody ever would have known about the whole Vince McMahon briefcase thing if Snuka didn't open his mouth in his book a few years before he died. And all we know is that whatever was said in that meeting, there were no meeting notes, which there were supposed to be. There were no meeting notes coming out of that meeting. And of course, charges were never filed against Jimmy Snuka. I would like to know, I think I know, but I would like to know what was in the briefcase. So if he had truth serum injected into his veins, that's question number 1 that I would ask him. I would also ask him, what specific drugs were you on in 1995 when we got the likes of The Goon and TL Hopper and Mantar? Remember Mantar? All the old WWE fans, when Mantar would come out, he had that big thing on his head when Mantar would come out. And he used to go, brrr! That's what Mantar used to do. I have no idea what that was. That was the Mantar bellow. I don't know if that was his mating call. I'll have to remember that the next time I try to romance a female and I bring her back home And before we get down to business, I'll just stand there and go, brrr! Fucking Mantar. What drugs were you on in 1995 when you came up with all these fucking gimmicks? That would be question 2. And question number 3 would be, why did it take until his death for you to acknowledge Randy Savage? What was it about his departure? I know it was personal to him, but there were so many other people that they came to terms with for the sake of business and brought back over the years. Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, a whole bunch of other people. Why did it take until Savage's death to acknowledge him and to put him in the Hall of Fame? That would be my third question. Because I'm tired of people beating around the bush and, you know, stories from third-hand parties. Well, you know, I think it was because he just was really hurt when Savage left, or stuff with Stephanie, those dumb rumors. If I knew he would tell the truth, I would like to ask him that question. So, those are the 3 questions that I would like to ask Vince McMahon. If I knew that he would answer me honestly. Dragon Chaser Kev in the chat says a female Mantar would be a woman tar. I guess so. I don't know. People ask me, what's a Mantar? I say it's half man, half tar. I don't fucking know. What are you asking me for? How the fuck am I supposed to know? Let's go to the next email question. Brett in Hicksville, Ohio. How would you book Sonya Deville's WWE return? Yeah, people have not been talking a lot about Sonya Deville. She's been kind of out of sight, out of mind. That was a horrible situation that she had to deal with earlier this year. Very scary. The maniac who invaded her home, I believe, is still remanded behind bars, but who knows how that's going to be resolved? Who's to say when or if he's going to be let out? I mean, imagine if you're Sonya Deville and this guy somehow gets out or pleads insanity and eventually gets out and tries to hunt her down again. I mean, these people are very, very scary. And I don't know when she's going to be coming back. I assume she is going to come back, but I mean, nobody really seems to know what her status is. But before she left, she was doing some of the best work of her career on the microphone, character-wise. She was a great heel. The stuff with Mandy Rose I thought was great. It's a shame that she had to step away because of that when she did. I think if she can come back and recapture some of that, she could be at the top of either women's division on Raw or SmackDown. So you asked me for my idea. I sketched out a little something very basic, but I think that it would be a fine way to reintroduce her to the roster. It looks like we may be headed to a WrestleMania rematch this year between Asuka and Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title. And I think that really depends on the status of Becky Lynch. We don't know when Becky Lynch might come back. If it were up to Vince McMahon, as soon as she popped out the kid, he would have wheeled her into the building herself and helped her into her gear to get her back on TV. How quickly she is going to be able to come back, we'll see. Maybe she can be at the Rumble. Maybe she'll have a WrestleMania match. That could change things then if she's ready to come back. But let's say she doesn't come back right away. Asuka goes to WrestleMania. She avenges her loss against Charlotte Flair. She beats Charlotte Flair. Asuka remains the Raw Women's Champion. We get to Monday Night Raw the very next night. And Asuka, again, is still the champion, and it's Raw the next night, and Sonya Deville returns the night after WrestleMania, and she targets Asuka. And she takes out Asuka, because that Raw Women's division is in dire need of some fresh blood. And once you get beyond Asuka and Charlotte, and if Becky isn't back yet, you don't have a whole lot of nothing in that Raw Women's division unless they call somebody up from NXT. And they have women in the NXT division right now who are ready to come up. They've been ready to come up. You have so many women in the NXT division right now that you can call up 2 or 3 women and still have a really strong division. But I don't trust them to do the right thing with these women any more than they have with people like Dominik Dijakovic or Aleister Black. So I would just as soon see them stay in NXT for a little bit longer. But if Sonya Deville, who's already on the main roster, is ready to come back, why not have her attack Asuka? That immediately vaults her into a top spot on the Raw brand. gives them a big heel to program opposite Asuka. To me, that's how you make it Impact. And that's regardless of what brand WWE considers her to be on. The last time that we saw Sonya Deville, I believe, was on SmackDown, right? That's where she was feuding with Mandy Rose. It really doesn't matter. People come back after months away and they end up putting them on whatever brand they want them to be on anyway. On Raw, she would share a roster again, though, with Mandy Rose. So if they ever want to revisit that, look, later on in 2021, that could end up being a Raw Women's title match. It could be the champion, Sonya Deville, defending against Mandy Rose if Mandy works her way up the ranks in the division. So again, very basic idea if you think about it. You're just waiting until the night after Mania, getting through Mania. Asuka retains. And you're establishing in one night that Sonya Deville is now going to be the number one contender for that title. Maybe she has to end up winning a few matches after that, but that's the most impactful way that I could think of to introduce her back onto TV. And I would put the title on her. I would build her up to be the one to beat Asuka. Just because I fear for some of these women in NXT when they get called up. I don't even know where Aleister Black is or what he's doing. We've not seen or heard from this man. I don't think he's been on TV in about 2 or 3 months. Talk about wasting talent. I don't want to see that happen to anybody else in NXT. It's one of the biggest reasons, I think, why a lot of people have trouble investing in NXT. Why get invested in these characters if they're just going to be torn down and forgotten about when they get called up to the main roster? It's such a slap in the face. To them, to the fans, to Triple H. We are counting down to midnight here on New Year's Eve. Counting down to 2021. Very happy that you guys can join me. We have a lot of people tuned in live right now. I thank you for that. I thank you for all of your support. And we got a whole bunch of your questions, and that is the theme of tonight's stream. It is the Sound Off inbox. So we are answering your email questions. We are answering your super chat questions. Send them on in, and I'll be here as long as it takes to get through all of your questions and hang out with you beyond midnight. We'll take a few more super chats now, and then get back to the emails here in just a second. So we have Steve Mello. Happy New Year, my friend. All the best in 2021. You deserve it. Steve Mello is the man. All that artwork that you see on this channel is collaborated on with Steve Mello and myself. He's the man with the Midas touch. And I cannot thank him enough. We've had an incredible year, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of the great work that he has put into this channel. So please, everybody in the chat right now, if you can find yourself a glass emoji, a wine glass, or a champagne glass, or a beer glass, put those emojis in the chat and show your appreciation for Steve Mello. Vincent Millage with the $5. Thank you, Vincent. Celebrating the end of this terrible year with some edibles. That's the one thing I do not have. What was your favorite AEW match this year? Mine was the Bucks against Paige and Kenny at Revolution. That was mine as well. One of the greatest tag team matches that I've ever seen. Back in February at Revolution. Smooches with the $10. Look at all those emojis. Look at all those emojis. Look at all those glasses. I should all hold mine up too. This is the Steve right here. Thank you, brother. Some Moscato for Steve. Smooches, buy you drink? Oh, he's asking me a question. Buy you drink? You mean buy you a drink? Happy New Year. Solomonster, thanks for all your awesome... Well, how are you going to buy me a drink? I'd love to know how this is going to work. I guess it'll have to be an IOU. You don't have to buy me anything. Thank you. Thank you, Smooches, for joining us here tonight. Naif Al-Safar dropping another super chat. Karsh Raj again with the $10. Pinot Grigio gang. Very nice. Very nice. Ace of Masta with the $10. Rest in peace, Mr. Brodie Lee and MF Doom. Max the Axe, Mr. Velato, joining us here tonight as well. I recognize a lot of my PayPal crew from the main show. Magician Sapphire, Happy New Year, Solomonster. Wish I could be as excited about 2021 as you are, but 2020 turned me into a pessimist. Oh, believe me, I am the biggest pessimist. See, I don't call myself really a pessimist so much. I like to consider myself a realist. Not a realtor, but a realist, meaning I'm pragmatic. Try to be realistic about things, and I'm with you. I'm with you, and believe me, things aren't going to change overnight. But we got to believe. We got to believe that things are going to get better, because I'm dying to see all my friends. I haven't seen my friends all year. Last friend I saw was in the first week of March. And we're lucky we did, because he had just, he was getting ready to move. He's got 3 kids I'd never met before, and we had the chance to hang out that day, and I got to see his girls, and it was such a great day. And then the following week, everything just went to hell. I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel like it, but I can't believe that the Jericho cruise was at the beginning of the year. It feels like a lifetime ago. And I'm glad I was able to get that in. I had never been on a cruise before. I had a blast on the Jericho cruise. I would have been signed up for the next one, which was going to be in February, and now they pushed it back to October, I think, of next year. I'm not going. I'm not going for a while, but for me, that was one of the highlights of the year. The fact that we were able to get that in before everything just completely turned to shit. Hugh Jazz, one of my favorite super chatters. Is Sheamus underappreciated as an in-ring worker? I believe he is. And in fact, it's funny you mentioned that, because I have a question coming up here in the emails that kind of touches on that a little bit. But I believe he is, actually. Absolutely. He's one of those guys like a Ziggler who has just been there for so long. I think sometimes he gets overlooked. He was also out for a very long time. I don't recall the nature of the injury, but he was out for a long time. And really only came back a few months ago. But I do think in the ring he is underappreciated. Hashway again, a classy tribute last night. This one got me on the same level as Owen Hart's death, goosebumps and tears. I did hear that from a lot of people last night. It was a tough night for sure, no doubt about that. Hopefully we never have to live through one of those again. Rabat from Derby, England. Do you think Triple H deserves the hate that he gets regarding his breakup with Chyna? Or do you think it is overblown? We don't know what we don't know. And what I mean by that is that we really don't know all of the details about their breakup. So it really is not for me to say. I know it seems obvious what happened. He started working with Stephanie. They fell for each other. And he kicked Chyna to the curb. And maybe it was that simple. Now, the reality was he and Chyna weren't married or anything like that. But did he cheat on her? Was he fornicating with Stephanie behind her back while they were still together? We don't know the answer to those questions. I think Chyna has said that was the case. Unfortunately, the state that she was in for a lot of years back then was a state that I don't know that you could take everything that she says with absolute 100% certainty. And by the way, that extends to her manager as well, who I occasionally see this guy interviewed. This guy comes off very sleazy to me. I don't have a lot of trust in what that guy has to say either. But look, if Chyna caught him cheating with Stephanie while he and Triple H were still, or while she and Triple H were still actively in a relationship, then that's a scummy thing for him to do. No doubt. No doubt. But we don't know. We don't know. So I just feel uncomfortable commenting one way or the other on that. Yeah, I could comment about Triple H and all the stories about playing politics and holding people down and stuff. Does he deserve heat for that? Absolutely. But the stuff with Chyna, it's just such a mess, and so many different things were said. I think that woman did get cheated in many ways, and it's unfortunate what happened to her, but she also levied some very serious allegations against Triple H a number of years ago. Triple H came out and said unequivocally that they were false, There were abuse allegations. And I think she apologized later on for it. So does that mean that she made it up? I don't know. Was she in the right frame of mind when she made those comments? Because there were some very embarrassing appearances and interviews that she had. And then other times she seemed perfectly lucid and bright and full of life. And it looked like she had moved on with her life. And it's very sad. It is very, very sad what happened to her. And I just don't think we have all the details as far as how the breakup went down. But let's be honest. I mean, if it was what it appears to be, Chyna never stood a chance. I mean, Triple H falls for the boss's daughter. Who do you think is going to win out in that? But, you know, Jim Ross and people will tell stories because he was in talent relations at the time that, you know, there were other issues as well, whether it was pay or she wasn't happy with her spot. So, you know, was she difficult to work with? Were there other reasons why they let her go? Maybe. I just don't think that we really know. Ludin from Louisiana. What do you believe are the 5 moments of TNA Impact's legacy that will be remembered for all the wrong reasons that you think will be on everyone's list once Impact is gone? Oh my, oh my, oh my. What a loaded question that is. What a loaded question that is. From Ludin. Happy New Year, everybody. If you're just tuning in, we are ringing in the new year. And I guess what we are going to have to talk about now are some of TNA's low points over the years. And I didn't really have to, it was very easy for me to jot these down. I could probably just read them from heart, frankly. But Impact has gone through many transformations in the almost 20 years now that company has been in existence. Almost 20 years of Impact. In 2022, it will be 20 years. We had the NWA TNA era in the old Asylum. We had the Dixie Carter era and the move to the Impact Zone at Universal Studios. The Billy Corgan era. We had the Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff era before that under Dixie. We had the Anthem era when Anthem bought the company. It is a very complicated legacy that this company leaves behind when that day comes. Although I still believe, and I made this comment on the podcast many years ago. I actually might have made this comment on the podcast over 10 years ago. That long after we are all gone, when I'm dead and you're gone and we're all just finished, we're all just gray matter, there will be 2 things that still exist on this earth. One of those things are cockroaches, and the other thing is Impact Wrestling. It is the company that just will not die. Right? Matt Hardy loves to say, I will not die. Well, TNA is like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. It's so many times they get stabbed, shot, killed, burned, drowned. It doesn't matter. They keep coming back to life. It's like Highlander. Unless you cut the head off, keeps coming back to life. And that is the legacy that Impact leaves behind. It'll be the cockroaches, it'll be Impact, and Impact will put on wrestling shows for all the little roaches and all their little roach families. And that will be the only thing happening on this planet. I believe that. I believe that to be true. They have outlasted a lot of stuff. There are a few moments that stand out as the most pathetic of that company's existence. The most disgusting to me is, and probably will always be, the Jeff Hardy incident at Victory Road in 2011, where it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy against Sting for the Impact World title. Jeff Hardy was not in a good way at that time. Jeff Hardy that night was in no condition to perform. Under no circumstances should Jeff Hardy have been allowed to even go through the curtain to go to the ring that night. And as the story goes, they were looking for Jeff Hardy. Nobody knew where Jeff was. And then it was game time, and out comes Jeff Hardy to the ring. And I call bullshit on that, because if you are running a show and you have somebody who is supposed to be in the championship main event, you need to know where that person is at least a few minutes before they go out there. And especially somebody with Jeff Hardy who had a history of documented issues before. The fact that he even made it to the curtain and was allowed to go out there is an absolute black mark forever on that company and the people who were running the company at the time. And Eric Bischoff, with some quick thinking, was able to go out there and relay some instructions to Sting and everybody on what was going on. So quick thinking, but you know what? Bischoff and everybody else who was backstage that night, they bear the blame as much as Jeff Hardy does for what happened that night. That even spilled out on TV. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting. It was a disgrace. I felt bad for the fans because fans paid for a pay-per-view main event that night, and what they got was a bunch of bullshit. They got themselves a 90-second main event, and that is how they went off the air that night. I feel bad for the fans. I feel bad for Sting, who clearly was visibly upset by what happened that night, as he had every right to be. Sting is a veteran. He's been in the ring with the biggest and the best names in the business, and this was probably a low point in his career, too, that he even had to be part of that. So that, to me, is at the top of the list. The other most embarrassing thing that TNA ever did. You know, to go back to a question I got a little bit earlier on, now that I'm talking about all this TNA stuff, somebody asked me what are my favorite rants. Some of those TNA rants from many, many years ago. You know what? Those were some of my favorites. Whenever they would do something stupid, I loved just blazing into that company. Now it's all coming back to me. I'm starting to relive my past here, and it's starting to remind me of those days. But the other most embarrassing thing that TNA ever did was air that ridiculous speech that Dixie Carter gave to the roster back in 2009. And this was right before they brought in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. This was a real speech. This was not a storyline. This was not a work. Earlier that day, in an empty building, theater in the round style, the entire roster is sitting around listening to Dixie almost cutting a promo on them and giving a speech about big changes that are coming to the company, and nobody likes change, but this is my vision. It's my vision, and I cannot have people working for me who question my decisions. This is what she said. I cannot have people working for me who question my decisions. Dictator Dixie. I used to call her Delusional Dixie, but Dictator Dixie works just the same. She said that her finances were on the line. This was one of the richest, I mean, no pun intended, but one of the richest parts of this entire thing. I have to make big decisions. I have to take this company in a direction that I feel it has to go in. My finances are on the line. I'm putting my finances on the line. And she cannot have anybody questioning her decisions. And I will never forget that. Just thinking, you know, her finances. Her finances. Like, this woman went out and took out a second mortgage on her house to fund the entire operation, as if the money wasn't coming from her daddy. Bob Carter was the one who was funding that operation. Bob Carter lost a lot of money on TNA. I don't think Dixie Carter lost quite as much money, if any of her own money, running TNA. But we had to hear about her finances. I'm putting my finances on the line to help fund this operation and get this company. Remember the rocket fuel when they signed Hulk Hogan? She said TNA needs a little bit of rocket fuel just to take them to that next level. That entire speech was an absolute fucking embarrassment. As if she was bankrolling the entire operation herself. And you have to sit there and watch people in the crowd like AJ Styles, who had been there from day one, Samoa Joe, who had busted his ass there, have to sit there and listen to all of that, and that it aired on television. That speech would have been a disgrace in private, but it aired on TV. Shameful. Disgusting. One of the absolute low points of that company, especially in hindsight when you see what the Hogan-Bischoff era yielded. All the things that the real hardcore diehard TNA fans loved, X Division and all the younger guys, they just completely stripped all of that away to bring in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair and Hogan's friends. And so AJ and Joe and Chris Daniels and all these people have to sit around and listen to this horse shit. And we'll air it on TV so all the fans can watch too. I think of Sharmell against Jenna Maraska, one of the absolute worst matches to ever take place in the annals of wrestling history. And I don't blame Sharmell for that. But she will forever be linked, unfortunately, to that match. Stuff of nightmares. But I did say years ago, when the Death of TNA book is written, and it will eventually be written, when that book is written, I made the comment that the cover image would be Dixie Carter holding on for dear life to Hulk Hogan's leg as Hogan, in storyline, quit the company, but in reality, he quit the company as well. Literally, the last time he was walking out of the Impact Zone, and Dixie is attached like a dog or a child to this man's leg, begging him in the storyline, begging him to stay. And Hogan just literally walks right on out of TNA. That is the lasting image that I always felt belonged on the cover of any book devoted to the death of TNA. And I still feel that way after all these years. So anyway, you got me to relive some of my old Impact days. You've brought me back to this period of slight PTSD for me, as I recall all of the many, 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 many rants that I was on when talking about TNA. I gave them so many chances. I really did. I really did. I'm sure things are better now, but I can only take so much. I tolerate it more with WWE because at the end of the day, WWE is the dominant promotion and that's what people want to hear about. But I can only take so much. I am but a human being. I can only take so much. We are now less than half an hour away from midnight. We are counting down to New Year's. So happy you guys can join me here live on YouTube. This is the first ever New Year's stream that I have done. Been doing this 13 years. First time I've ever gone live on New Year's, so that's pretty cool. I'm happy that you guys are able to join me here tonight. Super chat away. I will get to every single one of your comments and questions. We had a lot of nice comments people posted about the Brodie Lee Dynamite episode from last night, which I said at the beginning of the stream, if you missed it, the finest 2 hours, I think that AEW, I know, the finest 2 hours that company has ever produced on television aired last night. So they should all be very proud, I think, of what they put out for all of us and for his family, what they did, man. It got to me when I was watching -1, Brodie Jr. standing in the ring with that mask on, putting his dad's boots down on the mat. It just rips your guts out. But man, what an image of him standing there with that TNT title that Tony Khan gifted to him. It is now his. They're going to go and make a new one for the company. That may well be the same belt that his father held. His father said, Brodie Lee said that when he won the TNT title, the first thing he did when he got home, his son was sleeping, he snuck the belt into his son's bed so that when he would wake up in the morning, he would see the title. And now that title belongs to his son. It's tremendous. It's a tremendous... You wish it didn't have to happen that way, but just an absolutely tremendous piece of business there. Peanut Butter Vader time. Super chat from Brian Mack. What are some of your favorite ROH... did that say memories? I think it said memories. I went to a lot of live ROH shows back in the mid-2000s. I have a lot of fond memories. I got to see Bruno Sammartino live at the Manhattan Center with the whole Ring of Honor roster surrounding the ring, listening to Bruno cut a promo, give a speech, hanging on to his every word. I got to see some fantastic matches with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness and Samoa Joe and Homicide and Austin Aries and Tyler Black. I mean, the list goes on and on. Probably the craziest thing I ever saw was the very first show I ever went to. In Your Face. It was Ring of Honor In Your Face, June of 2006, I believe. The final show at the New Yorker Hotel. The New Yorker Hotel had a little ballroom with a chandelier above the ring. The hotel management was pissed when Jimmy Rave would, because the whole gimmick with Jimmy Rave is people would throw rolls of toilet paper at him and he would throw them back. And the whole chandelier was just wrapped in toilet paper. I remember that. But there was a match on that show involving BJ Whitmer and I want to say, I believe, Jimmy Jacobs. And BJ Whitmer gave Jimmy Jacobs a top rope powerbomb out to the floor into the crowd. There was an area where I guess they had cleared people away. I didn't notice that because I was all the way over here. And I'm seeing from a distance, it looked like he just powerbombed him into the crowd. I guess there were tables there. But think about that. He powerbombed him from the ring and had to clear the barricade. And it was crazy. I thought he killed him. Still the craziest thing I ever saw at one of those Ring of Honor shows. Quintus Brown, Happy New Year, Solomonster. Would you like to see Tessa Blanchard winning the Rumble and setting up Charlotte and Tessa as the one of the marquee matches for WrestleMania? No. Maybe down the road, but to have her win and just go right to Mania and do the match, that's a match you got to take your time with, man. I mean, there's a story there to be told, and you've got to educate your audience about who she is and why they should care. Plus, to me, it would just come off as rewarding bad behavior. I mean, the woman hasn't been signed to a major promotion. She's been available this entire time, unless she has opted not to sign anywhere because of the pandemic. I think it's very telling that AEW has been hands-off, and her father works for the promotion. They've been hands-off. WWE has been hands-off. To then just bring her in and have her win the Rumble and go to one of the main events of WrestleMania, I think would be a big mistake. It also would mean that you would have to put the belt on Charlotte before Mania and take it away from Asuka, and I think that would also be a mistake. So I am not a fan of doing that idea this quickly. Raymond Medina, thank you for helping me through 2020. Proud of your success. Happy 2021. Big hug. All right, we got a big hug from Raymond the Mountie Medina joining us here tonight on the YouTube stream. EJ, remember Sanjaya from American... Oh, yeah, Sanjaya from American Idol. I do remember him. Now that you mentioned it, he kind of reminds me of Luis, who calls into some of our streams. I get kind of a Sanjaya vibe from Luis. Maybe Luis is Sanjaya under an alias. Who knows? Anyway, he had weird hair and sang like garbage. But people... I don't know how Luis sings. Probably not very well. I think Luis dropped a super chat in here somewhere, so we may be hearing from him very shortly. Luis, if you're out there, Happy New Year, buddy. Anyway, he says, even though he sang like garbage, people loved him. Marco Stunt is the Sanjaya of AEW. Oh, come on now. Be nice. It is New Year's. Come on. Oz and Glorious. I actually thought that Taz's son Hook from afar looks like Marco Stunt. Oz and Glorious, Happy New Year, Solomonster. Thanks for keeping me sane. I discovered the stream right after attending the last Dynamite on March 11th. Now, the final pre-pandemic Dynamite. You were part of history that night. Jared M., again, thank you, man, for that $105 drop. Did I mention that before? I don't know if I mentioned that before. I think I did. Actually, I believe I did. I'm so involved in these questions, I had already forgotten about it. Thank you, Jared. That was very, very, very nice of you. That also means we were way behind on Super Chat, so we're going to catch up here. Pierce Holmes, congratulations on an awesome and successful 2020. My first memory as a wrestling fan is CM Punk's first cash-in. Oh my God, it's Winky. Listening since episode 28. That's what that one girl said when I dated her all those years. Anyway. Listening since episode 28, LOL. Not LOL, lots. Lots of ups and downs along the way, but here we are. Let's get that cake. It's time to ride fast and eat ass in 20... You just wanted me to say that, didn't you? Well, you know what? Oh my God, it's Winky. I'll tell you what. Thank you for the $5 super chat. And you know what? You're absolutely right. It's time to ride fast and eat ass in 2021. Thank you for the support. And thank you for that very amazing super chat. Holy shit. Jesse Jasso with the $5. Happy New Year, Solomonster. Hope you had a lovely year. Hope you have a lovely year. What was your first job? My first job was as a reporter for a newspaper in Brooklyn, New York. And I was actually very proud that I was the first person to bring a pro wrestling column to that paper. And they loved it because they got great feedback to it. It was in 1998. It was right in the middle of the Monday Night War period, the Attitude Era. Wrestling was never hotter than it was at that time, so it just made sense to bring a wrestling column to the newspaper for the first time. So, I mean, technically that wasn't my first job. I mean, I was a camp counselor first, but in terms of like a job, it was working for the newspaper. Let's see. Oz and Glorious. Tree Fitty for Turtlehead. All right. It was good to hear from Oz and Glorious. Isaac Petrowski. What moments or matches since the beginning of the pandemic do you think could have been even better if there was a full crowd to react? Well, I mean, it goes without saying that Brodie Lee's debut, Matt Hardy's debut, they happened on the same night. It's too bad that couldn't happen in front of a live audience. I think Otis getting the big kiss from Mandy Rose or WrestleMania instead of an empty performance center, that would have been huge. That would have been a much more memorable moment if he got the girl in front of a live audience. Because the Otis and Mandy thing was over. I was big time into that story back then. So I think that would have gotten a great reaction. You know, there's so many matches too that really would have gotten over huge, I think, in front of live audiences. And then you think of that tribute show last night. You would have had an arena full of people crying and laughing and celebrating. It would have made it that much more special. So we can make a whole list of all the great moments that we've been deprived of with no crowds in 2020. It's one of the reasons I'm hoping that when it is okay to do so, we can get more than just 1,000, 2,000 people at once. It's going to be a while before people congregate in crowds of 10,000, you know, in an indoor venue like that. But I look forward to that day whenever it comes. Boots with the $52 super chat. It's New Year's Eve. You know what that means. Time to give 2020 a couple of super kicks and jumping knees to the head. I apologize if this has been asked already. Should the AEW video game include wrestlers that are on Impact, MLW, and NWA? Now you're probably getting into a rights issue. I don't know how complicated that would make it. I think it would be cool if they can have, even if they were DLCs or something, just, maybe, I don't know, 10 names or something. If they could even bring in the NWA Power Studio as like an arena. Yeah, that would be awesome. I don't know how easy that would be, though, because now you're getting into the intellectual property that you know that you don't own. And so now you're getting into how do you split profits from the game, and it's all complicated. That's kind of where it falls apart. So I don't think it would work, but I think it would be a pretty cool idea. Snarky Kryptonite, I've been listening to you since 2014 and went to 2 of your wrestling meetups. Thank you for the selfie. You are cooler in person. Happy New Year. I look forward to being able to do that all over again. I really do miss that, man. I miss putting those events together and getting to hang out with everybody. Meeting everybody in person. We will do that again one day, I promise. I promise you one day we will get back to that. Hopefully sooner than later. We got more emails here. That was let's see, an email here from Ryan in Memphis, Tennessee. Or as Andy Kaufman used to say when he was feuding with Jerry Lawler, Memphis, Tennessee. Mr. Lawler. Remember when he used to cut promos on Jerry Lawler? Mr. Lawler. There was a post going around on social media stating the WWE Raw gets 50 million viewers in India. The ratings deniers use this as a justification for why ratings don't matter. Is this true? Even if it is, does it really matter seeing how WWE's key market is still here in the States? Yeah, it was Canyon Seaman who... that is his name. But it was Canyon Seaman who works for Triple H, works for WWE. He was the one who claimed that there are 50 million people in India who watch Raw and SmackDown, and he didn't break it down by the show, but combined, I guess, Raw and SmackDown every single week. And I think it was something like 90 million people watched WrestleMania. It was either last year or the year before. I don't know how they got those numbers. I don't know if they're including YouTube views, but WWE is very popular in India. I mean, there's a reason why they're supposedly, I think, launching an NXT India brand next month, or at least they're supposed to be. So they are very popular there. I don't know if they're popular to the tune of 50 million people a week. Again, I don't know how they got those numbers. But, you mentioned the whole ratings don't matter crowd, and I've talked about them on the podcast before, the ones who just go, the ratings don't matter. You're living in the past. Ratings don't matter. And, the only thing that these people are missing is the doink paint on their faces. They're missing the doink paint. They're missing the red nose because they're a bunch of fucking clowns. And I don't take them seriously. If that's how you're going to open a debate or an argument, you've already lost, because I can't possibly take what you say seriously after that. Simple as that. I mean, go tell Fox that ratings don't matter. Go tell USA that ratings don't matter. And, these are the same people that are going to go, oh, look at the demos. Like if Raw does a really bad overall rating, well, look at the demos. They were number 1 or they were number 2 for the week in the demos. Well, yeah, boy, I thought you said ratings don't matter. So which is it? Ratings don't matter when people are crapping on WWE for the overall life, but ratings do matter when you're talking about the demos. So explain to me exactly which side of the fence you fall on here, because you can't have it both ways. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth like that. So again, it's hard to take people like that seriously. It's like, what if the demos go down? Do the ratings then not matter again? Yes, ratings matter. They matter differently than they did 20 years ago. No one is denying that. Times change, technology changes, television has changed, it's more fragmented, there's social media, that's all true. There's cord cutters. Nobody is expecting Raw, even if they turn the corner and all of a sudden Raw is lighting it up again, that they're going to be getting 5s and 6s like they did 20 years ago. Nobody is expecting that. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is arguing that. If they are, they're a fool. I certainly have never said that. I don't believe they'll ever get back to those heights. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think it's possible. But to just make a blanket statement and say, oh, your ratings don't matter, to me, it's just a sign that they were dropped on their head as a child and their parents should be arrested for child abuse. Devin from New Jersey is up next. Buy or sell? On which helped to define and put New Jersey on the map more, Bruce Springsteen or The Sopranos? You are from New Jersey. I am from New York. I should be asking you this question. You're asking me? Who represents Jersey better? You're the Jersey boy. I should be asking you that question. To me, it has to be Springsteen, though. Come on, man. I mean, it's the boss. It's got to be Bruce Springsteen. Even on The Sopranos, they had multiple references to Bruce Springsteen. So you got to buy on Springsteen. But you're the Jersey guy. You should be the one telling me. We are getting very close, guys. We are now less than 10 minutes away from 2021. We get to say, to hell with 2020. I'm so happy you guys are joining me tonight. This is fun, man. We got a lot of good questions. I couldn't even get to all the emails that I've got, so this is only a relatively small sampling of them, but we have more emails yet to come. We're going to go beyond midnight. We're going to get to all your super chats as well. If you got questions, feel free. If you want, send them on in. You'll see them popping up on your screen. But let us go to our next email question after I pour a little more of this yellowtail. What is everybody drinking tonight, by the way? If you're not drinking, that's great. I'm only doing this because it's a special occasion. Didn't want anything heavy, so I figured I'd go for some of this Australian wine, which I must say is actually quite delicious. So if we have any Aussies in the chat tonight, although it might be a little late for you guys. I don't know what time it is over where you would be, but kudos on this, man. This is good stuff. We'll save the rest for when we hit midnight in a few minutes. Again, 8 minutes. 8 minutes. We're going to come back to this countdown here. 8 minutes, and then I'm going to put the glasses back on. I got to put those ridiculous glasses on. I mean, I bought them, for God's sake, so. What do we got here? Dr. Pepper. We got, what else? German Pilsner. Okay, that's a good choice. So Bud Light in there. Long Island's. Beer and White Russians. Oh, you're going to have a good night. Good old water. You know what, Abdul Rahman? You got the right idea. Italian Moscato sparkling wine, says Mike Pierre. It's all good, man. Margaritas. Frank from Canyon, Texas has a question. Oh, I should probably bring that up on the screen, shouldn't I? There we go. Now, I said that we also are doing some non-wrestling questions here, and I thought that I would answer this one here. Says, I started listening to you recently, so if you've talked about this in the past, I apologize. What were you doing during the World Trade Center attacks on 9/11? Is there anything you can share about what you remember from that day? That is a day that I think a lot of people will never forget. It is a day that I will always remember where I was and what I was doing. I think for us, for this generation, it was what the Kennedy assassination was to a lot of people back in '63. I used to be able to ask my mother, and my mother knew, from her parents' story, because my mom was very young when Kennedy was assassinated. I think my mother was 3 years old, 3 or 4. But what I was doing, I was in college. And it was in the morning, and I had just come out of the shower, which was weird for me because I'm a nighttime shower guy, not a morning shower guy. But I remember coming back into my room. I was dorming on campus at the time, and I had the TV on every morning. I used to watch Good Morning America on ABC. I just have it on. And I walked into the room, and they had an image of the first building, and a plane had crashed into it. And it's like, holy shit, that guy obviously, boy, did he fuck up. You just assumed that it was an accident, and the guy ended up off course. Something happened. But I have it on in the background. I'm getting ready to go to class. I'm getting dressed. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't that much longer later that there was a second plane that hit. And then it was like, whoa, okay. Then this is no accident. So I remember going to the building where my first class was the communications building. And I walked into the lobby, and they had a TV mounted on the wall, and there was a whole crowd of people that were just crowded outside in that lobby area. And teachers and students and teachers were just crying. They were bawling their eyes out. It was becoming very obvious what was going on here. Obviously, classes were canceled for that day. I turned right around, went back to my dorm. I called home to see if they were watching it. And like everybody else, glued to my television for the rest of the day. And one of the worst things that I've ever seen. And I come from New York, so the first thing you think of is, man, do I know anybody who works in that building? Do I know anybody who works downtown near that building? And at that time, I knew one person who did, and he happened to call in sick that day. He just wasn't feeling well. So he got very lucky, but I had just been in that building a few months earlier for an award ceremony. On the bottom floor of the World Trade Center was where they were hosting this award ceremony. I was getting some kind of scholarship award or something. I forgot what it was, but it was like a New York lottery hosted event. So I was in that building. And to be down at the base of that building and looking up was something else, because how many stories was it? 117, something like that. It looks like it just goes up forever. And just to think that those two things aren't there anymore. Those two giant buildings are just gone. It's just unbelievable to think about. You know, forever it was part of the New York skyline. One of the things I always loved going back and watching, there was a Hall & Oates concert. Oh God, what island was it? Was it Fire Island? I forgot where. But in the background, you saw New York City. And I always go back on YouTube every now and then to watch the video of the concert. This is back in like 1985. And they were doing all their great hits at that time. And I love going, and it's just a massive crowd of people that they had watching them sing. And you always see right there in the background are the two World Trade Center towers. So anyway, that's what I was doing that day. And definitely not something that I will ever forget for as long as I live. So, but I appreciate the question. I don't know if I've told that story on the show before. Somebody must have asked me at some point, but I have not. I don't know if I've answered that before. So, good question. All right, before we get into these other questions, we're getting very close. My computer knows it too. It's starting to freak out on me again here. Oh, we are getting close to midnight. Get ready, guys. It's almost time. 2020, we're only 2.5 minutes away. Now, this clock should be synced up to the one that they're using for Times Square, although I guess they're doing a virtual ball drop this year. Anyway, this is the clock I'm going by. I'm in New York. We're working off East Coast time. If it is already the new year where you are, Happy New Year. If you are in another country, if it is already 2021 where you are. But we're only a couple of minutes away here. Any West Coast people in the chat? Let me know. We must have a few. We must have a few West Coasters joining us here in the chat. It's going to be a little bit longer before you guys are celebrating with the rest of us. So happy that you can join me. Well, I did show you earlier. I got the glasses. I got this ridiculous hat here too, so I should probably put the hat on here. See if we can get this on. You're gonna celebrate a party, you gotta have a party hat, man. Come on. Got my Happy New Year hat. And if the stream is a little delayed, I know, guys, because it's lagging for me too. Don't worry, it'll clear up here in a little bit. Just bear with me. Computer is getting a little excited. You know, I'm a little worried that when we hit, when it changes over to the new year, the whole thing is going to crash. I guess we'll find out together. We're less than a minute away. Under 1 minute away from 2021. 50 seconds. Again, if it doesn't show you that on your screen, it's because it's lagging. We got 42 seconds left here to go. Let me just say that, again, this has been an amazing year for the podcast, even if it hasn't been amazing in other ways. And for every single person who has joined on any of these streams, for every single person who has supported me all throughout the year, I want to say thank you. You guys are the best. You guys are fucking awesome. This one's for you. And we are 15 seconds away from ringing in the new year. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year, and to hell with 2020. Salud. Abdul Rahman says, COVID is dead. If only it were that easy. Oh my goodness. Happy New Year, everybody. It is 2021, the first sound off stream of the new year. I am the Solomonster. So happy that you can join me as we ring in the new year together. Adios, 2020. It was nice knowing you. Now get the fuck out of here and make room for 2021. Michael Cuomo, what's going on, man? Thank you for the super chat. So glad that you can join. Michael's another long-time diehard fan of the show. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying a little bit of the jazz theme here. Big fan of jazz. We got any jazz fans in the chat here? Jazz hands, right? We got some jazz hands going on, right? Didn't Batista have jazz hands once on Raw? Oh my goodness, it is the new year. Let's lower that music here. Texas Fight says happy 11 p.m. from Texas. Hook 'em horns. Don't worry, you'll be celebrating soon enough, just like the rest of us. Don't worry. Don't worry. It is officially January 1st. Now it's a clean slate. We start fresh. We start fresh with Monday Night Raw. Monday night is going to be the night of legends, right? They're trotting out the old guys. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Hillbilly Jim, Jeff Jarrett, Tatanka, Sergeant Slaughter. They're all going to be there. They're all going to be in the house on Monday night. AEW's got New Year's Smash coming up, night 1 on Wednesday. And don't forget, Wrestle Kingdom. New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom is coming up on Monday and Tuesday, and I'm going to be covering that as well. Not live, but I will be watching it and getting a review up at some point for that as well. What is everybody saying in this chat? Everybody's going crazy here. Happy New Year to IDE Raven, Lord Frieza. I see him in the chat as well. It ain't New Year until January 20th, says Random Human. Uh-oh. Yeah, Sky. Yeah, Sky. I know Sky's a big New Japan fan. I'm sure he's excited. I know Sky's excited to get going on Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom is going to take your mind off all the bad in the world. Wrestle Kingdom is always a good time. So we still got a lot of your email questions here. We're far from done here on the stream as we ring in the new year, and I will have some of my Yellowtail Moscato. You know, I think I might just become a wine guy after this. It was never really my thing, but... And now Vince Russo, bro, says you're all swerved. It's December 30th, bro. Happy birthday. Join the brand, bro. Join the brand. Ryan Awesome says it's 11 p.m. in Louisiana. Well, by the time it hits midnight, I might still be on the air with you. We'll see. Depends how quickly I can get through all these super chats. This is distracting, isn't it? All right, I'll turn these off. I realize it's probably a little distracting for some of you, so we'll put the glasses aside. All right. Here we go. Let's get back to these super chats here, because you guys have questions. I've got answers. Or at least I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best to give you some answers to these questions. KM Truth with the $20. I think we as wrestling fans would not have gotten through 2020 without you. Thanks, Solomonster. Since NXT is pretty much a dead brand, what would you suggest Triple H do to bring the band or bring life back to NXT? Feels to me like NXT hasn't been the same since they went to USA and expanded to 2 hours. Remember, I was against the move to 2 hours. I know why they did it. USA wanted, the 2 hours, and they had all these people. They didn't know what to do with them. They weren't getting any TV time. But when NXT was an hour on the network, to me, that was NXT in its finest form. And I know they're never just going to go back to an hour on the network. So, as far as what they could do, honestly, I think they got to first get back to Full Sail with fans and then just kind of work from there. They've built a nice little, the whole COVID Coliseum down there. the Capitol Wrestling Center. It's a nice little venue they've constructed for themselves, but there's just a spark that's missing. And the people have a lot to do with it, but I don't know that there's any one move they can make at this moment that's really going to turn around their fortunes. And they've got a stacked women's division. They've got a lot of really talented people down there, but man, yeah, it definitely has NXT. Just it's a different vibe. It's a different feel. It's not the way it used to be. And I think that move to 2 hours on USA really had a lot to do with it. They had a good format for that show. When they deviated from it and they expanded it, it just never really felt the same. But I don't think there's a magic bullet. I don't think there's any one thing they could do right now that would really change their fortunes. I do think the theme shows that they've been doing on TV, like Halloween Havoc, and now they're doing New Year's Evil, I like that idea. I don't think it's going to necessarily change anything, but I think they should do more of those theme shows. Bob the Builder is joining us tonight here on the New Year's stream. Bob the Builder says, hey, Solomonster, want to know that CM Punk had not left WWE in 2014, would he be considered in the same level of a Cena or an Orton in the company? Who do you think was better at their peak, Punk or Orton? I think the way I look at it is that Randy Orton, he's had peaks and valleys. I remember when Randy Orton was more over than anybody in that company in 2009 into 2010. They were coming out of WrestleMania 26, so much for getting over Cody and DiBiase. All Legacy did was get over Randy Orton more. He came out of that as the biggest fucking babyface in the entire company. He's had those peaks and valleys, but I think in terms of a peak, I might have to say Punk. I feel like Orton has been good throughout for a longer period of time, but in terms of that big spike or, you know, that one particular period, I think Punk, I would give him the nod on that. Would he be in the same category? Would he be in the same rarefied air as John Cena and Randy Orton at this point? Probably not. I don't think WWE really ever accepted him the way that they accepted John Cena and Randy Orton. I don't mean the fans. I mean Vince McMahon and the company. I don't think he ever would have been looked at that way. I just don't think he would have ever been accepted as one of those guys. I think he would have always been looked at as almost like one step below. But I'm sure they'd love to have him back at some point. Once they get fans back in the buildings, you don't think they'd love to pop everybody by trotting out CM Punk in Chicago? You don't think that that's something that they wouldn't want? Deep down, no matter how much ill will they still have towards him? Come on. Victor David, you greatest, best friend ever. Love you, Jason Lee Solomon, from your best friend, Psychotic Crazy Vic. Okay. Wow. All right. That's a little scary. I'm a little scared here in 2021. We're not getting started on the right foot. But Victor, stay cool. Wow. Andre Vasil with the $6 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Mikey Clayman, buy or sell CM Punk 2011 babyface or CM Punk 2013 heel. Summer of Punk, man, 2011. I'm telling you, they dropped the ball big time on that. They dropped the ball on that. They could have had a superstar on their hands, not just a star. They had a superstar. And yeah, they put the title on him later in the year, and he held it for a year. But the way they handled that whole thing in the summer of 2011 after Money in the Bank, it could have been so much better than it was. I remember I pitched this whole idea where it would build to... and you know, look, it's something Vince McMahon never would have gone for, never had the balls to do it. But like John Cena almost becoming this corporate-like champion where Punk represents something that Cena is just the polar opposite of what John Cena was at that time. He was the quintessential hero. He was the company guy. He was the chosen one, right? He was the big merch seller. And Punk was almost the antithesis of Cena. And you could have built something to the Royal Rumble even where, you know, Cena ends up aligning more with the McMahons, and not just rehashing what they did with Rock necessarily in 98, but kind of a similar type of thing, because everybody already looked at Cena as the corporate guy, the chosen guy. So why not play off that in storyline? If Punk was as over as he was, you could have safely turned John Cena, and you would have had a huge babyface to kind of swoop in and take that spot. You wouldn't have had to worry, oh my God, if we turn Cena, who do we have? Well, you had Punk right there. Nobody was more over than Punk at that time. So there was so much wasted potential there and what they could have done. Naif Al-Safar with the $100 super chat. And Naif, I love you, brother. Happy New Year. Terrence wants my thoughts on the Mets in 2021. Well, I'll tell you what. We were talking before about me being a realist and being pragmatic. I am optimistic. We have new ownership. We have a guy who is a fan just like everybody else is a fan. He's been a big fan of the Mets for a long time. He's got the money to throw around as far as big names go. And I think it may take a few years, but I think the team is finally headed in the right direction. Some new blood, man. I talk about it with Vince McMahon all the time. And creative. You get a new vision. Some new blood in there. That can make all the difference in the world. So I'm optimistic. Eamon Johnson, since Kenny Omega is considered the greatest in ring and on the mic of all time, should he go on a multi-year cross-promotional Bruno type run? Wait a minute. Who considers Kenny Omega to be the greatest in the ring and on the mic of all time? I would like for you to introduce me to who this person is who believes that Kenny Omega is the greatest of all time in the ring and on the microphone. I sure as hell never said that. Who the hell said Kenny Omega was the greatest of all time? On the mic? Have you been drinking some of this? Have you gotten into my supply of the Moscato? Are you the one who broke the fucking lock off the goddamn cabinet? Was that you? I don't know anybody who said that. Kenny Omega is great, but Kenny Omega is not the greatest of all time. But to answer your question, should he go on a multi-year cross-promotional Bruno-type run? I mean, Bruno was champion for 8 years. So no, I don't want a Bruno-type run, but I would like to see him do more in Impact and maybe, NWA is not really doing shows now. I mean, they got the Shockwave show, I guess they have. But, I would like to see him make appearances in other promotions and fight for other championships and become like a belt collector. I don't think that needs to be a Bruno-type run. A Bruno-type run is like a multi-year run. Fans don't have the patience for that. But I would like to see him do more interpromotionally. Yeah, absolutely. But again, please point me in the direction of exactly who said Kenny Omega was the greatest of all time, especially on the microphone, because that person is not somebody you should be listening to. Don't listen to them. Listen to me. Watch me, listen to me, don't listen to them. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before. That is definitely a first. Kenny Omega did, says Sky Genie Channel. Maybe he did. All right, maybe in his promo. Maybe that's what he was talking about. The way that his super chat was phrased, though, it almost made it sound like there are fans who have said this. Now, if he's talking about Kenny being a heel in a promo, then that's fine. But I certainly hope there was no other podcaster or person that actually made that comment with a straight face. And I'm not taking anything away from Kenny Omega in the ring. But that is quite the blanket statement to make, and I do not agree. Trey Marquis, Happy New Year. Drinking shots going into your 14th year. Props to an OG, and let's get a Cameron Grimes. Just for you, Trey. Just for you, buddy. I love you, Trey. Wow, man, we got explosions going on outside here. Everyone's having a good time. Fireworks going up, big pyro going on outside my window, or gunshots, one or the other. Devin Garcia, request for an impression of Jimmy Snuka, asking Solomonster what year it is, brother. Brother, what year is it, brother? I hear noise, brother. What year, brother? I jumped from the cage onto Morocco, brother. What year? Calm down, Jimmy. Calm down. Fried chicken without flavor. Happy New Year, Solomonster. Jay White, double champion at Wrestle Kingdom 15 on night 2. I am calling it. Well, I hope you're wrong. I'm rooting for Ibushi. Ibushi is going to walk out with all the gold, because it has to be. Powerful one. Happy New Year, Solomonster. How would you rank the 3 Austin Rock WrestleMania matches? 15, 17, and 19. I would go 17. I would go, in terms of my personal enjoyment, I would go 17, 15, and 19. 19, it felt like an epic match, and looking back on it now, we know it was Austin's last match. Rock finally was able to beat him. Big stadium show. WrestleMania 15 was not a stadium show, but I liked the match at 15. I thought it was a better match than 19. And maybe I'm wrong. It's just one of those things where, for whatever reason, I enjoyed them more. And I actually thought their Backlash match was better than the WrestleMania 15 match. But 17, I mean, I don't think there'd be any debate about that. 17 is their most epic of matches. But yeah, Robbie Burns in the chat, you're right. Most people would say that. Most people would say 17, 19, 15 in that order. I loved Hollywood Rock. I did. But Austin was not in the best physical state at that point. And I think, I don't know, there's something off to me about that match. But maybe it's just been so long, I have to go back and watch it. Maybe if I went back and watched it again, I would feel differently. But thank you for the super chat, man. Juan Ocampo. Can we get a first ever Orton double douche pose from you? An Orton double... Oh, an Orton douche pose. Why? I think my eyes are going. I'm seeing words that aren't there, man. You want an Orton pose? The douche pose? I don't think I can... The window is not big enough on here. Let me see. Let me see if I switch frames here. He wants the... Is that what it's called, by the way? Is that the official name that you've given it? The Orton douche pose? So we still got the confetti falling. We got the confetti falling from midnight. And the music is playing once again. Let's turn that music off. Let's turn the confetti off. Get some Orton douche pose going like this. I can't do it. I can't do it. I got to be standing on the middle rope. That's the closest thing you get to a douche pose. Let's see here. Who else we got? We got to get back to your email questions. Oz and Glorious. Jake the Snake is the greatest heel of all time. End of story. All right, you get no argument out of me. Jake the Snake in 1991, I would put him up against any heel in history. Absolutely. EJ, which New York City area airport do you recommend flying to? JFK. JFK. Awesome Conspiracy. Who do you think will be the breakout star in 2021? Also, rest in paradise, Brodie Lee. Yeah. I just answered that a little bit earlier. To narrow it down to one, I think is kind of impossible. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of breakout stars. I think that you're going to see people like Wardlow in AEW. I think maybe breaking away from MJF and getting out on his own. And I think sky's the limit for somebody like him. There are people who think John Silver of the Dark Order is going to be the next big thing, which is funny because he's one of the smallest guys in the company. But man, he is a lot of fun to watch. On the WWE side, I'm hoping for big things from Keith Lee. I would, again, love to see Rhea Ripley take her place in that women's division on Raw or SmackDown, but I do worry about those call-ups. As far as other people who are currently on the WWE roster, Big E is at the top of my list as far as having a breakout year. Has to be. Has to be. Already got back the Intercontinental title, but I think it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time before he gets up to that next level. Juan Sanchez in the chat says Kona Reeves will be the breakout star of 2021. I'll tell you what, you want an early prediction? I'm not doing the prediction show for another week and a half. I'll give you a prediction now. Kona Reeves will not be the breakout star in 2021. There's your first prediction of the year. There's your first prediction of 2021. How about that? Money Mac. In a world where he isn't injury prone, does Samoa Joe have a reign as a world champion in WWE? Yes. Yeah, those injuries, unfortunately, I think have really worked against him. And I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I wonder if he's dying to get back in the ring or if he's comfortable just doing the commentary thing. You know, he's got a lot of miles on his body. He's been in some wars. He's getting older. Or is he like Macho Man? You know, is he itching to get back into the ring? I don't know, but it's unfortunate that he didn't come to WWE sooner. That's the thing. I think if he had come to the company 5 years earlier, without a doubt, he would have been a world champion. Not a doubt in my mind. But back then, the rap on him is that WWE wasn't interested in somebody who looked like Samoa Joe. It took them years to come around on the guy. Even when he signed with NXT. There was no belief of him going to the main roster. It was only supposed to be NXT. And eventually he ended up gravitating to the main roster. But, you know, he's been injured quite a few times, unfortunately, since he got called up. And I just think, I don't want to say he's missed his window because we could still get a world title run for Joe. I don't think it's too late. But every year that goes by, it gets later and later, and that light dims more and more. Chris Quillman, bro, you are my bro, Solomonster. Have an awesome 2021. Walking away from 2020 in slow-mo as it explodes behind you. What was your favorite dive from 2020? Raw's ratings. Very funny. All of them. All of them. Every match there's a dive. How am I supposed to narrow it down? Everybody is a fucking dive. I'm supposed to narrow it down? It's impossible. Shaquan Hickman, Happy New Year. Buy or sell on the most emotional WrestleMania moment, world title win. Bryan at WrestleMania 30 or Benoit at WrestleMania 20. For me, it was Bryan at WrestleMania 30. I'm a little bit biased. I was in the building that night. The confetti was falling. And I had followed that story from the very beginning, and to be able to see them actually follow through on it and him get his big moment in that, you know, in the Superdome was very special. It's a very special moment. Was it more emotional than Eddie and Benoit hugging at the end of the show? That was probably the more emotional moment. Benoit's win on its own, I go with Bryan, but if you're going to throw in the hug with Eddie, that whole show closing image, then I got to go with Benoit and Eddie, especially now in hindsight. I mean, it's really fucking depressing to look back on that. And I will never look at that moment the same way ever again. Money Mac again, why do you think Kane was never in the Ministry of Darkness, and do you think that would have become a good idea? At the time, it just storyline-wise didn't make sense. He was off doing other things. I think at the time he was part of the... he was part of the corporation, I think, right? Didn't he then turn babyface? So storyline-wise, I just don't think it would have made a lot of sense. John Harris, Brodie Jr. for the Exalted One in the future. Also, this is my first Super Chat. Solomonster, love the podcast. It's gotten me through a rough year. John, thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for the Super Chat. And Brodie Jr. has a roster spot. He has signed a contract, a legitimate contract with AEW. And if he wants to pursue this as his line of work when he gets older, he has a spot ready for him and waiting in AEW. So it could very well be that he is a leader in waiting for the Dark Order. Let's do one more here, and then we'll move back to the emails. We got some good ones left, too. And it could be your question. If you've emailed me, you better stick around. I might answer your question here on the air. Nayaf, I've been watching Vince McMahon interviews on OTR in 1998, 99, and 2004. What are your thoughts on any of them if you can recall? Oh, I recall them all right. The one in 99, I think, if I remember, you may be talking about the one that was after Owen Hart's death, I believe. He did not come across well in that interview. Vince didn't really come across well in any of those interviews. He didn't come across well in the HBO interview he did with Bob Costas. It was almost like sometimes he would alternate between Vince McMahon and Mr. McMahon, and were they one and the same? It was hard to tell sometimes. He was very standoffish in some of those interviews. Vince was always well-spoken, but to me, he never really came off well in any of those interviews when he was really pressed on the hard questions. I give him credit for at least agreeing to the interviews. A lot of other people wouldn't have even agreed to it, but I don't think he really came off well at all. James Hollins, which abject failure hurt the most but had the most potential? Aces and Eights, Retribution, or ECW on Sci-Fi? Well, boy, they really are failures, aren't they? That's quite the trio you've presented to me there. ECW on Sci-Fi was dead from the beginning. It never stood a chance. It just never stood a chance. Once it became clear that it was going to be their vision of what they wanted ECW to be, it never had a chance. It was dead. It was dead on arrival. Aces and Eights, it was great for Bully Ray. I'll say that much. Aces and Eights made Bully Ray for the first time in his career feel like a main event player. For everybody else, for the fans, not so good. Retribution also, just a total failure from the very beginning. So by process of elimination, I actually might have to go with Aces and Eights. But I don't like any of those things. You've put me in an impossible position here, James. What are you doing to me? None of the above. That would be my answer. None of the above. All right, let's move on here. We only got a few left. We only got a handful of email questions left, and then we are going to move back to the Super Chats. We move to Jerome from South Bay, Florida. You've said that you love wrestlers with multiple movesets, and one person you bring up is Sheamus, who has the White Noise, Brogue Kick, Celtic Cross, and Irish Curse backbreaker. But what about Matt Riddle? He has the Bro Mission, the Bro to Sleep, the Bro Derek, Penalty Kick, and the Final Flash Knee. Do you think that Riddle is in the same category? Absolutely. And it should be no shock that Matt Riddle and Sheamus, they've got great chemistry together. The couple of matches they've had on TV so far, they were two of the best matches on Raw in the last 6 months. Were the matches with Riddle and with Sheamus. I love it when there is a wrestler on TV who doesn't just rely on the same 2 or 3 moves. And I always complimented Sheamus on that, even when I didn't find him really all that interesting. I used to compliment him and say, boy, Sheamus has like fucking 5, 6, 7 different moves that are part of his moveset that he could hit in his matches. And Riddle is similar. Riddle has a whole bunch of different moves as well. But Riddle and Sheamus, they work great together. And if they end up back in a program or have a pay-per-view match one day, wouldn't bother me. I think they've done tremendous work together. I don't think that's a coincidence that I feel that way about both guys, and they both just so happen to have expanded movesets. David from Dallas, Texas, in 1994, Randy Savage wanted to continue wrestling, but Vince McMahon had other ideas. What would you think of Macho Man returning to the Squared Circle in 94, and how would you have done it? Well, that is a loaded question. And if Bruce Pritchard is to be believed, which I think more often than not he isn't, Savage never told them that he wanted to wrestle more. Apparently he felt that way, and he just, I guess Randy Savage was just such a shy guy that he never felt that he could go to Vince McMahon and tell him that he wanted to wrestle more. So that's Pritchard's side of the story. Maybe he never told Bruce Pritchard. That doesn't mean that Randy Savage didn't communicate that to Vince McMahon. So let's just put that out there first. Savage himself said otherwise after he left WCW, and his brother, Leapin' Lanny Poffo, he's talked about the idea that Randy pitched supposedly many years ago. This probably would have been back in 92, that he had pitched an idea for a 2-year program with a young Shawn Michaels who had just branched out on his own as a heel. He probably would have been with Sherry at that time, and I don't know if maybe the idea is that they could have played off of that because Sherry used to manage Randy Savage. I wonder if that's what Savage had in mind, but supposedly he had pitched this 2-year program. It would have ended with a WrestleMania match and him putting over Michaels at the end of it. It would have been a stipulation where if Shawn Michaels lost the match, he would have his head shaved. And if Randy Savage lost the match, he would retire from the ring and he would become a full-time announcer. With the idea that Shawn would go over. So Savage would get this one last great match. He saw Shawn Michaels as being the kind of person that he could have a great match with and also, help elevate him to that next level. But, you know, as Savage's brother tells the story, it always bothered Randy that he could never, in his mind, match the kind of battle that he had with Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. He loved that match, and for all the great matches he had, he never felt like he got back to that level. He saw in Shawn Michaels somebody who he could potentially have that kind of Ricky Steamboat type match with. And he was desperate to have it because when he was ready to walk away, he wanted people to be able to look back and go, boy, you know, those two matches Savage had, which was the better one? Was it the one with Steamboat or was it the one with Shawn Michaels? He wanted people to have those two matches to compare. At that stage, physically, would Savage have been able to have the same kind of match he had in 87? Maybe. I don't know. But again, this is all according to Lanny. That was the idea that Randy had pitched for. And he had presented it to Pat Patterson, who was booking at the time with Vince. And supposedly Patterson said, look, it's a great idea, but we want you with a mic in your hand. And so it never happened. But look, I'm not so sure Savage wouldn't have ended up in WCW anyway. I don't know that the end result would have been any different. I think he would have been unhappy just being relegated to the announce desk. Once he saw Hogan and all of his old buddies going to WCW making the kind of money they were making, I just think it would have been very difficult for him to not go over there and take the money. So I still think he would have landed there. But it is too bad we never got a proper program. We only got one match. It's on a Coliseum video. I think it was like World Tour 92. There is a match floating around between Shawn Michaels and Randy Savage from that year. But that's the closest thing we ever got to it. But, you know, just to go back to your question as far as, you know, 94, because it's true. I mean, after WrestleMania that year in the match with Crush, what did Savage really do? He really wasn't wrestling much at all. And I was thinking about, you know, potential ideas, 94, you know, what could you have done with Savage to kind of get him back in the mix? I just got done talking about Bob Backlund on the podcast last week, in the This Week in History segment, and his big heel turn in 94. And I loved it, and I wouldn't really want to change that. I think the whole Backlund snapping and everything, I thought it was great. But I proposed this idea. What if it was Randy Savage in that spot and not Bob Backlund? I mean, just think about that. What if it was Randy Savage and not Bob Backlund in that spot? And the story around Savage is that maybe for weeks and weeks on end or months on end in interviews and stuff, you know, Savage is sitting at ringside. Maybe all the heels on the roster just take turns taking little digs at Savage. Hey, look, it's the Macho Man. He's old and washed up, you know, and old man. And they're just poking and poking and poking the bear. And Savage just gets to a point where he just grows tired of it and he wants to prove that he can be the champion again. He wants one last run at glory. And instead of it being Bob Backlund, what if it was Randy Savage? And they tell the story of, Randy, you've got nothing to prove. You go, no, I got to prove this to myself. You know, I could just picture this great impassioned promo that he cuts on TV. And it's Savage instead of Bob Backlund who gets the match on Superstars with Bret Hart. Or maybe not Superstars. Maybe they do it on a pay-per-view or something. But Savage loses. And Bret goes to shake his hand, and Savage is all distraught, and he just loses it. And he snaps, and he attacks Bret Hart, and he turns heel, and ultimately maybe he does get a rematch, and he does win the title, and he gets one last run as a heel. I absolutely think Randy Savage, as a heel, could have made that work. So, you wanted my idea? I would basically take what they did with Backlund, but let's tell that story with Randy Savage instead. Absolutely, I think that could have worked. Oh, yeah. Savage, tired of this new generation talk, people calling him old. You people think you're better than me. Do you know who I am? I think that would have worked. Absolutely. Mike from London, England. I was wondering if you are aware of the rumors of Sting debuting for WWE in 2003 at WrestleMania 19 to challenge Stone Cold Steve Austin. Lee Wilkins just donated $1 to shock William Regal. Thank you, Lee. Yes, I am aware of that story. It is true, at least according to Sting. Steve Austin claims he had no idea at the time that Sting was supposedly this close to possibly coming to WWE. I guess he had never heard anything about it. Austin at that time, though, had his mind on other things. He was on his way out, and he knew it. So I'm sure Austin knew nothing about any negotiations that may have been going on at that time. But there was a book on the Attitude Era that WWE put out years ago, and in the book, Sting, I guess, was interviewed, and Sting tells the story. And he certainly has told the story in other interviews, that at that time, he did have conversations with WWE, and one of the ideas that they discussed was the possibility of him coming in around WrestleMania 19, and possibly, I don't think he would have been rappelling from the ceiling, but him coming in and showing up at the end of the show to confront Stone Cold Steve Austin. And maybe that would have been how they went off the air. What a cliffhanger that would have been for WrestleMania. The one guy that WWE could never get finally comes over and he confronts the biggest star in the company. And then you go off the air. You know how many people you'd have tuned in to Raw the next night to find out what the fuck is going to happen now between Stone Cold and Sting? That would have been a hell of a finish. I don't know if that means Austin would have beaten The Rock or if he still would have lost. It didn't matter, though. It was a moot point because Austin was done physically. He couldn't go. His neck was not going to allow it. And I don't know if that's why it fell apart or if it fell apart because of money. But Sting says the deal fell apart and it never happened. But 2003 is the same year that Sting debuted in TNA. So timeline-wise, very possible that he was first talking to WWE, and when things fell apart, that paved the way for him to make the deal to go to TNA and make some appearances there. I don't think he actually signed full-time with them until 2005. Sting made a whole bunch of sporadic appearances in 03, 04. I think 05 is when he officially came on full-time, I believe. Let's go to Brian from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. By the way, for any new people who have dropped in, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I wish you all nothing but health and happiness here in the new year, and I toast you cheers. This is not champagne. I did have a bottle of Chris Jericho's bubbly. But it is all for just for keeps. I'm not going to open it. It's sealed up downstairs. You know, one day it might be worth, $6. So instead, we're trying some Yellowtail Moscato. The only time you'll probably see me drinking wine here, but I figured it's a special occasion, so why not? Brian from Baton Rouge. A lot of people are drained of the McMahons, and rightfully so. But I do think a feud between Roman Reigns and the McMahons could be used to get somebody new over from NXT. After Reigns won the Universal Championship, Paul Heyman stated that Roman left because he was being mistreated by the company. Perhaps with Roman and the Usos annihilating the entire roster. Triple H calls up somebody new from NXT, someone who could finally put an end to Roman Reigns. What say you? I'm not sure who that person would be outside of Karrion Kross or Damian Priest, who, funny enough, are having a match at New Year's Evil next week. And even those two, I don't know that works. In the case of Kross, he's a heel. I don't think I would bring him in as a babyface. So, as far as making a new guy, I honestly, I think, what I think the better idea would be? And he's hardly a new guy, but if you're going to call up somebody from NXT to try to come in and be the one to take down Roman Reigns, whether he succeeds or not, I think that guy is Finn Balor. I think of all the people on that roster, I don't think Ciampa's going anywhere, Gargano's not going anywhere. I think that person is Finn Balor. I think we all know that eventually Finn Balor is going to go back to the main roster. It's just a matter of when. And the thing with Finn Balor is, it would make a lot of sense because Balor beat Roman Reigns. His first night in, when he got called up, he beat Roman Reigns. He has a win over Roman Reigns on Raw. And you could absolutely bring that up as part of the story. He could talk about how he went back to NXT to prove that he could be the champion again. He could be the dominant guy. But he's been paying attention to what Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have been doing. They've been running their mouth, and Roman calls himself the head of the table. You're not the head of anything. And now Finn comes back, and he's going to try to take down the tribal chief. Makes sense to me. That would certainly be a impactful way to reintroduce him to the main roster. But again, if I was going to pick somebody who has never been on the main roster before, then Damian Priest or Karrion Kross are the only people who I think I might take seriously, and they're against Roman Reigns. Because again, somebody like Tommaso Ciampa, I don't think is going to the main roster. I don't think he wants to. And James, and this is the final email question before we get to your Super Chats. James from Staten Island. Reports suggest that Vince McMahon was not interested in doing a cinematic match with Sting and The Undertaker. He did not do Austin against Hogan when he should have in 2002. He did not do Hogan and Flair in 1992 like he should have. What is your opinion on these big-time matches that would have drawn huge money and huge numbers but never took place for silly reasons? Well, let's take a look at those matches you just mentioned, right? Hogan and Flair from 1992. Now, I've heard a lot of explanations for why this didn't happen. I've heard that their house show matches didn't draw well, and that may well be true, but that does not mean that Hogan Flair on pay-per-view would have done poorly. In fact, they were already building to it on TV. They were building heat between Flair and Roddy Piper on TV, and they never did a TV match between them. It's a lot of weird matches they were building up back then that we just never got the payoff to. Hogan Flair really should have been the main event of WrestleMania 8. Now, we got a great match with Savage and Flair, but it really should have been Hogan and Flair. But the reason we didn't get Hogan and Flair is, I think more than anything, Hogan was leaving. Hogan had a lot of heat on him at the time from the steroid stuff and the Arsenio Hall appearance, and it was a lot of bad publicity had followed Hogan around in 91 into 92. And I don't know if the company pushed him to take some time off or if he said, look, brother, I got to get away for a while. But he was leaving. You couldn't do Hogan versus Flair and have Flair win. Of course not. Hogan, his entire career, I don't know that he's ever put Ric Flair over properly, one-on-one. They did some false finishes on house shows where Flair pinned him and then it got reversed. Has Ric Flair ever pinned Hulk Hogan straight up? I don't believe he ever has. I would love for somebody in the chat to correct me if they could think of a match I'm forgetting. It's to the point of absurdity at this point. WWE, WCW, anywhere they went, Hogan always had to beat Flair. Flair was losing matches in WCW to Hogan that Flair wasn't even a part of. Yes, I'm thinking of the strap match with Vader. Flair took the losing fall in a match he wasn't even in. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There's that Ultimate Warrior super chat again. Thank you, Sean O'Hare. Thank you, Sean O'Hare. All right, looks like everybody's agreeing with me in the chat that we cannot think of a single example of Ric Flair pinning Hulk Hogan and it actually sticking. Not some bullshit dusty finish to a match. So if he was never going to beat Hogan, you're not going to have Hogan beat Flair and then leave for a year, because what the hell does that accomplish? Ultimately, that's why that match just wasn't going to work. 2002, you could probably blame Stone Cold for that more than anything else. I don't think Austin wanted to work with him. The match may well have been presented to Austin. You'd have to ask Austin and find out. My sense of it is that Austin, even if he was not offered it, but if he was, he wouldn't have wanted it. I don't think he liked Hogan. I don't think he trusted Hogan. And so I don't know that I could put all that on Vince McMahon. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have gone to Austin first and only went to Rock second because Austin Hogan was the match to do. Can't complain about what we ended up with, though. Rock Hogan, I've said before, Rock Hogan to me is a 5-star match. Now, your definition of a 5-star match and, you know, Dave Meltzer's impression of a 5-star match may be very different. Rock Hogan had it all. Didn't have to be a technical masterpiece. That, to me, is a 5-star match. So, we ended up with a great match. But, again, probably put that on Austin as much as Vince McMahon. Now, Sting and The Undertaker, I just got done talking about that on Sunday. Vince McMahon could have done it. He chose not to do it. Undertaker, I don't know if he was ever on board with the idea. I get the impression he wasn't. Sting also deserves blame. Sting kept signing those one-year deals and one-year deals with Dixie. Oh, Dixie, I'll take the deal. And he spent all those years, 10 years of his career, maybe more, in TNA. All those years, I don't want to say wasted. He had some good years in TNA, but 10 years is a long time, and he aged in those 10 years. He could have come sooner if he wanted to. You gotta blame Sting every bit as much. You can't put that all on Vince McMahon. But yes, there have been some very big matches that, for various reasons, did not happen. And it's too bad, but I guess there's always the video game, right? Robbie Burns in the chat says just one match. Flair beat Hogan clean at Uncensored in 1999. Is that true? I have no recollection of that whatsoever. I'm sure there must have been some kind of chicanery involved. I find that impossible to believe. Enigma 316. Don't worry about the super chat, brother. Happy New Year. I appreciate you being here tonight. If it didn't work for you for some reason, we'll try to figure that out, but just you being here, man, I appreciate that. That means a lot. So let's get to the rest of your questions, because we got a whole bunch of them here to get through. I did say I'm going to read them all. I did say I'm going to answer them all. Paul Heyman is joining us tonight. Paul Heyman says that the match is on YouTube. All right, well, if it's on the network, I could watch it there too. I have the network. I'm going to have to check that out. Uncensored 1999. I honestly, I have no memory of that at all. But it could be the Moscato. It is possible that it is the Moscato. Jacob Donnelly had dropped 100. That was, wow, that was 2 hours ago. Holy shit. We got a lot of catching up to do here, don't we? Oh my goodness. Jacob Donnelly. Happy New Year. I don't even know if Jacob is still awake. If you're alive, Jacob, say something in the chat. Jackalope Music, great show thus far. Buy or sell. Add special guest interviews to AEW commentary. For example, live fan questions to Arn, Tully, and Snoop Dogg. They do that with like baseball games sometimes. I mean, you could do it if you want to make the show more interactive, I guess. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as they can screen the questions, because they probably would get some pretty horrific questions. Yeah, I mean, that's fine if they wanted to do that. Theo Johnson. Do you see Damian Priest getting called up to the SmackDown brand and defeating Roman Reigns for the Universal title? Well. How about that? After the question that I just got done answering. I don't see that happening, but if they were going to pluck somebody new from NXT, he's one of the two guys I think that it would likely end up being. It's almost like a slimmed down version of Roman Reigns. He's like Roman Reigns light. I don't mean that as a slight, but that's kind of how he looks to me. Jamie Dorsch, look at this. Holy crap, I must have missed that one. $109 super chat. That obviously is converted, I think, from another currency. $109.24. All the best to you and the fans in 2021. Would not be following wrestling if not for this podcast. Conversion rate, oh, there you go. Conversion rate might make for an odd amount again. I really should read these super chats before I start making those comments. Buy or sell, Goldberg beating The Fiend or Undertaker losing to Great Khali at Judgment Day? You know what? Undertaker could absorb the loss The Fiend really, if he, when the Fiend is losing matches like that, those matches hurt. So as much as Undertaker probably should not have been losing to the Great Khali, I got to buy on that. I'd much rather see that than the Fiend jobbing to a fucking suplex from Bill Goldberg. It was not a jackhammer. It was a fucking suplex. There's our boy. Look at that. I knew I saw him in there somewhere. Luis Belmont Show with the $30. To hell with 2020. I should do my Luis impression. Solomonster. To hell with 2020. Are you ready for the last week of Alex Trebek being the regular host of Jeopardy? Also, thanks, Danielle, for being the closest friend I've had during the pandemic since Little Mrs. Cindy Lopez. Love you. That's another one, right? 2020, of all the people who are no longer here. And, Alex Trebek was 80 years old. He was sick for a while, but still, he was one of the good ones. And it sucks that he had to go the way that he did. I know he was in a lot of pain and he went through a lot of shit there at the end. I don't know who they're going to pick. It seems like Ken Jennings might be probably the leading candidate to take his spot. He must be, because I saw Ken Jennings was apologizing on Twitter for past tweets that people uncovered he was making bad jokes and crude jokes years ago. Because that's what people do now. They have to dig up old stupid jokes that people made because they have nothing better to do with their lives. So the fact that he was apologizing earlier tells me that he probably is in the running and he knows it. Somebody else had floated an interesting idea for a possible host. And, oh my God, his name just popped out of my head. But it's a great actor. The guy from Reading Rainbow and Star Trek. Oh my goodness. His name somebody in the chat remind me. You know what? I think he would also be a good candidate to consider for Jeopardy. I like him. So I don't know who they're going to pick. I don't know. The one thing I will tell you is that Jeopardy will never, ever be the same again. It's like The Price is Right without Bob Barker. I'm sure Drew Carey does an okay job, but it will never, ever be the same again without Bob Barker. Some guys just do it for so long. They own that role, and you can't just replace them. Those are shoes that are just impossible to fill. So, LeVar Burton, thank you. That's who I was thinking of. I think LeVar Burton is somebody who could be. Dry Chicken says Baron Corbin as the host of Jeopardy. Well, it would get him off TV. It would get him off Smack. Well, he would be on TV, but I wouldn't have to watch him. That's not a bad idea either. If you want Jeopardy to fail miserably and end up with their ratings in the toilet, then you could certainly pick Baron Corbin. How about Scott Steiner? Yeah. Bust My Chops has the right idea. Scott Steiner as the host of Jeopardy. I love it. As he reads off all the categories. First category, my freaks. Second category, my peaks. Third category, fat people. I mean, come on. You got to admit it would be entertaining if nothing else. Scott Steiner. Haha Geo says, do you think WWE will go back to TV 14 later on? And what would you change for ratings if you were in charge? I can't possibly answer that question here at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I will tell you that I do not see them going back to TV 14 full time. You will have risque adult angles that they'll do from time to time. For God's sakes, Randy Orton just burned a man alive on TV. It doesn't get any more TV 14 than that. I don't know any fucking TVY or TVPG shows where a fucking guy gets burned alive like that. That alone will not turn around ratings, though. It's not about TVPG. It's not about TV 14. It's about good creative. And that has been their Achilles heel now for years. 3 hours is also just an impossible thing, but it's all about creative. You can have a good TVPG show. I keep telling people this. TV 14 is not the issue. Stop insulting your audience and just give them good TV on a consistent basis. We'll have, for every one good Raw show, we have 6 that are terrible. That ratio has to flip. Something has to change. Until they figure that out, nothing will change. Oz and Glorious, Nails does not get the credit he deserves either. He was very scary. Anthony Madrin with the 25 bucks. Buy or sell the Lashley and Lana angle as a whole, or 2020 as a whole. I'm leaning towards 2020. I'm leaning towards buying on 2020. Lord Frieza, I made it. All right, Lord Frieza, he is here. I did see him earlier, though, in the chat. I knew he was here. Thank you for everything. May the new year bring you blessings. Do you think that we will ever see Jim Johnston in the Hall of Fame? That guy had some amazing themes. Jim Johnston absolutely belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm not talking in the legacy wing. He deserves a whole video package showing him in studio creating some of the best theme songs in the history of the business. Theme music is so important. The opening chord of that music, it is so important to a character. It cannot be understated. The careers that he has helped, you talk about people who don't get the credit they deserve. Jim Johnston does not get the credit that he deserves. For all the people who are casual fans who would look at you like you had a Cyclops eye if you said, oh, Jim Johnston, they'd look at you and go, who? I want WWE to educate the general public about who Jim Johnston is. And what better way to do that than by giving him a full-blown Hall of Fame induction with the video package treatment and everything. The legacy wing is a crock. It's a sham. Just to put his name on a piece of paper and not give him a proper induction where he can get the recognition for his work, I think would be a slap in the face for 30 plus years, I think, of work that he did for that company. I hope so. I hope one day he gets that recognition. Angelo, is there a city that you think is overlooked when it comes to the best crowds? Well, we've heard about New York. We know about Chicago. I don't know if it's overlooked, but Toronto gets my vote. Toronto, the Canadian fans, man, those Canucks, they're fucking great. I don't know if Toronto gets overlooked, though. But if not, they would probably get my vote. Yeah, I think Toronto. I think Dallas is another one. Dallas also has some pretty boisterous fans. But let's stay away from Corpus Christi. How far is Corpus Christi from Dallas? Hopefully a good distance. Nathan Cania, Happy New Year. Thank you for helping me get through this hardest year of my life. You've been my #1 favorite content creator this year. Hope 2021 is even more successful for you. Nathan, I hope 2021 is a lot better for you than this year was, whatever it was that you went through, and here's to bigger and better. Food Hive. Did I miss a Jimmy Snuka impression by the Solomonster? Yes, you did. Probably back around the 2-hour mark. I don't know. We're going on almost 3 hours here. But, brother, you missed the impression, brother. Haha, Gio, how would you book the return of Jason Jordan, if possible, and would you keep him partnered with Kurt Angle? I floated an idea to get Jason Jordan back together on TV as a mentor for Chad Gable, and instead they're doing the stuff with Chad Gable and Otis, which I think has potential. That's fine. I know they're best friends in real life. If he was going to wrestle again, though, that's different. If he was going to return to the ring, I think you could... I don't think he needs to be... I guess he was doing the whole Kurt Angle son thing. You know what, though? That was so stupid. I wouldn't even go back to that, honestly. I don't think he needs it. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be able to get back in the ring. So I would have just done the idea where he mentors Chad Gable and he comes to the ring as his coach. And that's his way. He's like living vicariously through his former tag team partner. Coggies, grateful for my bud suggesting I start listening to your show. Happy New Year to Franco. Happy and healthy New Year to you and all. Maybe in the future you can go to Tokyo and see Suzuki Rage. That is on my bucket list of things I would like to do. And with COVID now and travel being what it is, obviously it's not going to happen this year, but it's on my list. I want to get to Japan. I want to get to Tokyo. And just, enjoy the city, enjoy the nightlife, maybe make a trip over to Ribera Steakhouse. I'm not a wrestler, so I wouldn't expect the jacket, but just to be able to hit these places and then if not the Tokyo Dome for a Wrestle Kingdom, I would love to even hit some of the smaller venues like a Korakuen Hall or Sumo Hall for some G1 shows or something. I don't know. It's just, I just think it would be a lot of fun. As a wrestling fan, I feel like it's something I have to do at some point. And hopefully, now I'm not too fond of how long the plane ride is. I can tell you that, but hopefully at some point I'm able to make my way over to Tokyo. Happy New Year all. Let me move up here a little bit. There we go. Anna J, he says, for AEW Women's Champion. Colin, thank you for the $2, man. Hashway, which is worse regarding the winning of the Royal Rumble? Goldberg or Baron Corbin? To me, I think Corbin is worse. I just cannot stand that guy. These are horrible choices. Hash, what are you doing to me? I don't like either one of those options. Goldberg is a star. Baron Corbin is not. Could Baron Corbin one day be a big star? You know what? Look, pigs may fly one day. It's possible. Who's to say? But in that case, look, I guess in that case, you put a gun to my head, I'd say Goldberg, but I don't like either one of those options. We can do better. 2021 is the year of doing better. You can do better. I believe in you. Ace of Masta, a New Year shot. Oh, God, he's probably plastered by now. This was 2 hours ago. I don't even know if Ace of Masta is conscious at this point. Smooches. Hopefully we can get another Sound Off meetup in 2021 so I can make good on that IOU. I am a she, by the way. Oh, all right. Well, how about that? We will have to see if we can make that happen, Smooches. I hope at some point next year. This year. I'm still saying next year like it's still 2020. Hopefully we can make that happen. We do have a lot of female listeners of the show. It is predominantly male. I mean, it's actually comical. If you look at the analytics as I do, I mean, it's something like 94.6% male and the rest is female. But there's definitely a fair number of female listeners. Okay, Ace of Masta in the chat is alive. He says 2 more hours until midnight where he is. Well, I'm happy that you are still conscious. 2 more hours, so that would put you where? What time is it? It's 1 a.m., so that would put you in, what are you, in Mountain Time? Are you in the Mountain Time Zone? Is that where you are? Let's see who's next here on this wonderful list that we've got here of messages. We've got awesome, oh no, we got Coggies again. Oh, we got Dried Chicken. Boy, I'm skipping ahead too far. Dried Chicken says, I am predicting AEW will have their first show on the road in 2021 with the CDC and the states making approvals. I hope so. I would very much like to see that. Coggies, if anybody is looking to see some great old Brodie Lee matches, look for Claudio against Brodie Lee at Chikara's only steel cage match on YouTube. Yes, I've heard good things about that match. Definitely, that is a recommendation I have gotten from people as well. Awesome Conspiracy. Someone pointed out in the Solomonster Facebook group that the Triple H streak ended this year by not wrestling the entire year. Mind blown. Happy birthday, Tony Flags. You know, I think John Cena also. I don't think John Cena appeared on a single show this year, and I believe that is, well, I mean, WrestleMania, he had the Firefly Funhouse, I guess, but what was the stat? There was some kind of stat with John Cena where maybe he didn't wrestle a TV match all year, something like that. You know, you really don't think about him, and it's amazing because John Cena was the guy carrying that company for so long on his back, and he has transitioned over to Hollywood and Honda commercials and hefty commercials, and good for him. Yeah. Good for him. Powerful one. Buy, sell, borrow, and rent on these 4 title wins. Eddie Guerrero at No Way Out. Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20. Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Or Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania 35. Oh, boy. Well, for me personally, I got to go Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30 as a buy. I've got to borrow Eddie at No Way Out. I have got to... Boy, that's tough. I mean, the buy and the borrow are easy. For me, it's Brian and Eddie. But I'm trying to figure out what the back end is. Everybody's going to be yelling at me in the chat. Benoit, of course, Benoit. But that Kofi moment, man, that was special at WrestleMania last year. I got to say, that was a special moment. Better match, though, at WrestleMania 20. So I'll go Benoit and sell on Kofi just because, well, I mean, I could go either way, honestly. But that's my order. Dorian Moore, have you seen Sasha Banks' new look? Is that the one where she is impersonating Ruby Riott? I did see that. She looks great. I think it would be impossible for her not to. But it's a good look. It works. Gigs World with $1.99. Thank you. And also a separate $5 super chat. Just got over COVID and feel better. Thanks for the podcast, which helped me big time. Also, Dixie was a major mark for herself. Happy New Year. You think? Was it that obvious? This is a woman who allegedly was trying to, behind the scenes, pitch herself for some kind of reality show. You know, they have these Real Housewives shows and stuff like that. And I think she was trying to get some kind of reality show going around her based on her life and everything. I mean, that tells you what she was kind of aiming for. Brian Mack, what are some of your favorite ROH matches? Oh, man. Too many to name. Obviously, I think of Joe and Kobashi. I saw some great battles with Bryan Danielson and Takeshi Morishima. Daniel Bryan against... it was on the... it was the night that Nigel defended, or it was a GHC title match. It might have been Marufuji and Nigel. Oh, it was Daniel Bryan and Kenta. That's what it was. I saw both those matches in the same night. Two of the best matches I ever saw live. So those are a few of them. Alberto Ortiz, who was most impacted by not having fans? I mean, look, they were all impacted. I gotta say though, AEW I think was really getting on a roll, and the whole COVID thing really slammed the brakes on them. And they have managed to overcome, and they've put on quality shows all year long. But I think AEW is impacted more than WWE. I really do. They had so much momentum going into this year, and with people coming in, and Brodie and Hardy and people coming in to debut, and you take those crowds away, it's like, you know, it hurt them. I mean, they were able to persevere and get through it, but it definitely hurt them, I think, a little bit more than WWE. Spanish Goddish, who do you think was better in their prime, Michael Jackson or Freddie Mercury? Michael Jackson is just the best, man. I mean, forget the personal stuff for just strictly as an artist and a musician. I mean, there was none better than MJ. Which is funny because one of the rants that I still hear about to this day, people tell me it's the best rant I ever went on the podcast, was in 2009. Episode 75. And it was less a rant on Michael Jackson and more a rant on the media attention around his death and the circus. And yeah, I just kind of went off on that. But as an artist, I mean, how can you how can you not have an appreciation for what, I mean, Michael Jackson's body of work. I was just listening. I'm a fan of the 80s playlist. I have a lot of that shit, Spotify and Pandora. And every time a Michael Jackson song would come on, it's just one after the other of these classic hits that just, you can't help but just stop whatever you're doing and listening to it. Yeah, and there's very few artists who have that effect on me, and he's one of them. So, got to give the guy his props. Jared Simmons says your TNA rant on Sam Shaw and Mr. Kennedy, their Asylum match will always be at the top of epic rants. I literally felt your anger through my computer. That was back before his Dexter Loomis days, the days of Sam Shaw in TNA. Spencer Dunnings, my grandma in 2020 passed away and life was incredibly hard. Your podcast was there for me every day. Thank you, Solomonster. I'm very sorry to hear that. I was very close with my grandmother. She passed away 20 years ago, and it sucks. Unfortunately, I know that feeling. So if the podcast can bring you some relief, even in a small way, then you know what, brother? It's all worth it, man. It's all worth it. R. Baskins. I just wanted to see this super chat. Happy New... Well, there it is. You got it on screen. I don't know what picture popped up with it, but thank you for the $7. By the way, we have gone now 3 hours and 6 minutes. And I am just going through the remaining super chats before we get out of here. So I told you I'm answering your questions. It is 2021. And I can honestly sit here right now and tell you that there has not been a minute of this year that has gone by that I have not been broadcasting live. There you go. How about that? Canadian Oddball. Since it is such a huge part of your show, what would it take for you to stop watching WWE? It's gotten insufferable the past little while, and I don't know how you do it anymore. Well, I do it with some Moscato. That's how I do it. No, I'm kidding. What would it take for me to stop watching WWE? Honestly, I mean, it would probably take them doing something that was so egregiously offensive to me. Which I don't think they would do just because they'd have investors to answer to. They can't quite get away with some of the same stuff that they used to, but the reality is they're still the dominant promotion, and that's what people want to hear about, good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of people do not watch WWE anymore. They rely on this show to keep them updated on what is going on. If there is good stuff, they want to know about it because then they might go on YouTube or on the network and check it out. Everybody has a different reason for why they tune into the podcast. Everybody's story is different. Some people watch WWE still. Some people don't. I can't do this podcast successfully, accurately, the right way without covering what is going on in the biggest wrestling company in the world. And even when they are, down in the doldrums, somebody's got to be around to talk about what's going on and what they could do to hopefully improve and get better. So it would take a lot to get me to stop watching WWE because it would fundamentally change the way that I do my show. And I love my show too much to do that. So, and frankly, I heard from people who just and it's kind of sad really, but who actually get more entertainment and enjoyment out of hearing me talk about it than they do watching it. So whatever works for you guys, I guess. But it is definitely harder than probably ever before for me to stomach, especially on Monday nights. More than SmackDown, it's really the constant. That's why I can't do it live. I mean, I have to watch the show in bits and pieces just to be able to get through it and just digest it. And it's harder. It's harder now than it's ever been before. It really is. Big Al made it. He did. He made it to the sound off. Solomonster all the way from Japan. Big Al from Japan. Thank you for all your hard work last year. We are lucky to have a podcaster of your caliber. From Al Alvarez, all the way from Japan. Al, thank you, man. All the way from across the globe with the super chat. Who do we got here? We got Brian Mack. Let me back up here a little bit. We got Brian Mack. How would you have prevented the Montreal Screwjob? Personally, I'd have Brett lose the belt to Undertaker at one night only and have Undertaker lose it to Shawn at Bad Blood. The problem with that idea, I mean, it's great for us to say that in hindsight, but at that time, nobody knew that Brett was going to WCW. That had not happened yet. And I have said that the way that they could have potentially gotten out of it, Undertaker had no match at Survivor Series. He was there, backstage, but he had no match. You could have probably ended up changing the match to a triple threat. All three of those guys were linked that the summer into the fall. Undertaker, Shawn, Brett. And they didn't do triple threats back then on TV, but you could have had your first pay-per-view main event triple threat match. Undertaker, Shawn, Brett. It's not singles, but you get Brett and Shawn in the same ring, and then Shawn can win the match by beating The Undertaker. I mean, there's any number of things you could have done. Undertaker felt the same way. He felt slighted. Why didn't you come to me? How come you didn't come to me? I could have talked to these guys. I'm friendly with these guys. Come ask me. You know, he's the locker room leader. Nobody consulted him. If you were in a bind, if you were in a jam like that, why wouldn't you talk to him and say, Mark, this is what's going on. Do you think you might be able to talk to these guys? And we don't have a match for you on the show, so we're thinking of maybe putting you in there. And boy, you'd really be doing us a solid if you did the job for Sean or something. I think there are ways to do it. Deadpool James Herrera. I'll be taking your advice. I will not try pickle juice shots on my birthday. I'll drink Jack and Coke. Well, there you go. He's celebrating a birthday this week. He's turning 30 years old. And take my advice. Many, many years ago, I was treated to a pickle juice shot. And I will never do that again. It was one of the grossest things that I've ever done. A. Lavelle. Stuck at work, but just want to say thank you for the awesome content, and thank you for bringing me and so many people great insight and joy this year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, my friend. I appreciate that. Anthony Madron, what are some of the weirder encounters and requests that you have had with fans? At one of my meetups, I had somebody who wanted me to sign, it was a female fan, and she wanted me to sign her calf, which I thought was a little strange, but I guess she had other wrestlers sign parts of her body before, and she was showing me, I don't know if it was that day or if she just had permanent marker all over her body. It was very weird. I mean, I've had people want me to sign like wrestling belts and stuff that they have autographed by people, and that's fine. That's cool. But, yeah. I can't say that I've ever signed someone's thigh before. Of course I obliged, because I am a gentleman. I would say that's pretty weird. Kevin Garnett wants to know, am I wearing pants? I am, in fact, wearing pants. I'd be quite the fool if I was wearing a dress shirt and a tie but no pants. I mean, who do you think I am, Randy Orton? EJ, do you often get asked why you're a Mets fan and not a Yankees fan? I always get asked why I'm a White Sox fan and not a Cubs fan. I hate the Cubs. Well, I hate the Cubs too. I do get asked that. I have people say, come to the dark side. I'm not a fair weather fan. All right. I have my team. I grew up a Mets fan. It's a Mets family. If my father and my grandfather were Yankees fans, I'd probably be a Yankees fan, but I'm not. I went to Mets fans at Shea Stadium when I was a kid. I was a fan of Gary Carter and Darryl Strawberry. And so that is my lot in life. The Mets are going to go up, the Mets are going to go down, and whichever direction they go in, I'll be there to follow them. Like my poor brother. This kid's a Knicks fan. I think I heard the announcers talking before I came on the air tonight. The Knicks, I'm sure they lost. But like they missed, I think, 20 or 22 straight three-point throws or something tonight, I think, in the game. Like, this team is trash. I mean, it's garbage. But this kid, man, on Fubo TV, we got Fubo TV. He used my code, actually. FuboTV.com/Solomonster. Get the free trial and 15% off your first month. Cheap plug. He used my code because it's the only way for him now to watch Knicks games. We cut the cord. We don't have cable anymore. So the team sucks, but he watches them because he's not a bandwagon fan. You know, he's, for better or worse, he's a Knicks fan, and for better or worse, I'm a Mets fan. That's how it works. Just because times are tough, you don't jump onto the other train. What kind of fan are you? Mark Spera, my second favorite Rumble, 1992 is number one. Good man. Is the 2007 edition. Do you know why Batista and Undertaker did not main event WrestleMania 23 when Undertaker won the Royal Rumble? Because they wanted John Cena in the main event. I know Undertaker and Batista were not happy about that. They were pissed. They went out there in that show, in the middle of that show, out to prove something. They were out to steal the show. And between the two main events, I think they succeeded. Deadpool says, I do have another nickname. I go by West Coast James. Much love from the West Coast to the East Coast. Well, hey, Brother, look, send me an email. If you want me to change your nickname, he's had the name Deadpool on my show. PayPal nickname for, God, how many years now? If you want to change it to West Coast James, shoot me an email. Shoot me an email and we'll make that change. Michael Cuomo, Happy New Year, brother. Good to hear from you. Brandon Mobley, Happy New Year. Solomonster, still technically 2020 here in Texas, but, well, that was an hour ago. Let's see here. Boy, James is going crazy in the super chat. Psycho Jet Black, after all this time, I'm still not used to your voice matching your face. You sound like a 35-year-old man with the face of a 15-year-old boy. Well, I will take that as a compliment. The fact that at least I don't look like an old man. So, there you go. Do I have the voice of a 35-year-old man? I guess. Sean O'Hare, who is your breakout star for 2021? Boy, I've got that question 5 times tonight. I have answered that earlier on. Any promotion breakout star for 2021? I'll go Wardlow. I do. I think Wardlow is going to have a big year next year. Boy, he's coming all the way from Scotland. When he sent that super chat in an hour ago, it was 5:10 a.m. in Scotland. Wow. See, that's dedication. I appreciate that. Mikey, buy or sell, 97.98, Kane or Fiend, 2000. Oh boy, come on, man. Now you're just being ridiculous. Obviously, I'm buying on 97.98 Kane. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Hey, KC, look, if you need a new name, email me. We'll make it happen. I'm all named out, man. I've been coming up with names for people for years. If you got a suggestion, go ahead and email it to me. Hashway with the $50 super chat. We've seen him a few times tonight, man. Hash is one of our international fans, man. He's great. He's awesome. Stay positive and screw the haters. Yeah, that's what I say. Screw the haters. I'm taking this hat off, by the way. This is squeezing my brain. Oop. Squeezing my brain. Off Leather Wings. Happy New Year, Solomonster. I just got off work. Tuning in now. We know Brett is your number one. But who is your top 5 all-time? I would have to. I'd have to think about that. I mean, Brett's number 1. Kurt Angle is probably in my top 5. Oof. Daniel Bryan might be, especially when he went on that run. But a full, complete list of 5, I can't give you the full 5 right now. But those are some of the names that would be on there. Ray Wrighton, oh, my darling Ray. I'm so glad she joined us tonight. I love you back. Team Charlotte. Yeah, she's always on Team Charlotte. She loves Charlotte Flair. EJ says, why did Gorilla Monsoon win worst announcer 6 times? Because Dave Meltzer has a poor taste in announcers. That's why. Dave Meltzer was biased against Gorilla Monsoon. Because Gorilla Monsoon would just make shit up. Gorilla Monsoon would make up, like, medical terms and stuff. And I guess because I guess Meltzer just liked his announcers to be more serious. And Gorilla Monsoon was not Gordon Soley, and so therefore he won worst announcer. But again, if it was the Observer Awards, it wasn't just Meltzer. It was people who read the Observer voting on that. I think those people are just out of their fucking minds. Or it could just be that the wrestling announcing was so much better back then that Gorilla Monsoon actually was ranked at the bottom of the list. Today, Gorilla Monsoon would probably win the award every year outright. We got Jake Finn. Does Daniel Bryan deserve to win the 2021 Royal Rumble? Yes. Storyline-wise? Absolutely. Fried chicken without flavor? Megan the Stallion should align herself with Jade Cargill in AEW as a celebrity heel to attract more younger mainstream audience. I don't know who that is. Who is that? I feel like I should know who that is. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of Ashanti the Adonis in NXT. JR Vichar. Been listening since episode 180-ish. Hope this year is kind to all of us. Keep up the great work. Mr. Awesome 739. Dropping a super chat. Jamie Dortch. Dorsch? Steve Austin said that Bossman missed a run-in spot at Survivor Series against Mankind, this ending their future program. What is the story? Well, it's just what he said. I've heard him tell that story as well. Bossman, I don't know if Bossman didn't get a cue from somebody in the back or if he was asleep at the wheel or what happened, but he missed some kind of cue, and I guess things kind of got... You know what? I think what happened is, now that I remember, when Shane McMahon turned on Stone Cold in that match and he flipped him off because he was the referee, I do remember Austin very slowly kind of walking towards Shane and then not doing anything, and I bet you that's where the boss man was supposed to attack him from behind. So it sounds to me like the boss man just pulled a Papa Shango from WrestleMania 8 and he was a little late. He was asleep at the wheel that night. Lee Wilkins, thanks for the buck. Mr. Awesome again. Were you a fan of the Jeff Hardy heel turn in TNA? No, not really. I liked his music. I thought the music was good, but not a big fan. AJ Daniels, what in your opinion is the best parody segment in history? For me personally, nothing tops the Larry King segment with Shawn Michaels. You know, a lot of people look back on the DX Nation parody as offensive now, and I guess I could see why, but the fact is, at that time, it was funny shit. So I think the DX parody is up there. Yeah, you know what? That one might be at the top of my list. Spanish Goddish, which star do you hope to see in AEW in 2021 free agent wise? God, I don't know. Who is the biggest free agent that would be out there right now? Eric Redbeard. I mean, I guess he would he might be the biggest free agent name I could think of. I mean, I think a lot of the key players are kind of accounted for. I know a few people on the independent scene who I'd love to see get a shot. In fact, I was talking to somebody earlier who had a match recently on AEW Dark. And hopefully he'll get called back, and I could see big things potentially in his future. And I wish him all the best. But in terms of like a big name, I think Nick Aldis, it feels to me like Nick Aldis is kind of stuck in limbo right now, not knowing what's going on with the NWA. And I do think that he could have a presence on the show. I'd like to see him get a shot. I don't know what the deal is, why WWE never had any interest in him. He said somebody didn't like him there, somebody had it out for him. So at some point, maybe he can get a shot in AEW. Now, that might be good to see. Let's see. Sean O'Hare, how does WWE gain its fan base back? Brother, we don't have enough hours in the day. It's going to take... they have squandered a lot of goodwill, put it that way. And they have chased away a lot of their fans. It's going to be a years-long effort, I think, to win their trust back. And the best way to do that is consistently good television that does not insult their intelligence. Easier said than done, but that's really what it boils down to. Good quality television on a consistent basis. Not every show is going to be a home run, but until they can do that, you're not going to win those people back. It's just not going to happen. Spanish. Which of this stars from the past do you think would fit great in today's wrestling? Sean O'Hare. Well, that's funny now. That is funny. I just got a super chat from Sean O'Hare, and the next question is, what do you think about Sean O'Hare, Test or Gentleman Chris Adams? Who would have worked great in wrestling today? Sean O'Hare is a guy who had a lot of potential. I think he probably could have done well. That gimmick that he started doing, the whole Deville gimmick. Chris Adams is a great wrestler. Test. I mean, look, I think they all could have done somewhat well. Who would have done the best of those three? I can't. There we go again. Again with the Ultimate Warrior. I can't even make that face. Eyes bugging out of his head. Look at this. Ultimate Warrior from Paul Heyman dropping a super chat. Were you ever a fan of Disco Inferno from WCW? No. I was a fan of his music, though. He had good music. That's about the only thing that was good. Walter Palacios, Happy New Year. Thanks for all the content. Thank you for the 20 spot. Appreciate it. Enigma. Who will lead WWE to glory after Vince McMahon? That is the million-dollar question. I don't even know who that would be. I just know they need a new vision. Creative vision. Vince can run his company. He could even be there to watch it all unfold. But creatively, they need a new vision. I don't know if it's someone from within. I don't know if it's someone that we're not thinking of. I don't know if it's some young person who just happens to have a lot of really great ideas and knows how to write television, but they got to make a change because what they're doing has run off so many people. If it was anybody else, that person would have been gone long ago. So they don't have that person above Vince McMahon to say, you're not getting the job done here creatively. I mean, the company is making money still, but creatively, you're not getting the job here. You're done. Who's going to tell that to Vince McMahon? Who is above Vince McMahon who's going to tell him that? The shareholders? There is nobody else above. It is Vince McMahon. And that is why he is still in the position he's in, sitting in that chair every single week. And, you know, Dean Ambrose said it best. John Moxley, he's going to die in that chair. Vince McMahon will never give that chair up. He is going to die in that chair with that headset on. That is what John Moxley said. I believe that. Rub me. I don't know if that's a request, but rub me with the $4.99. I just put my baby to sleep, and I'm glad I made it to your show to support you and wish you a Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you, too. I appreciate that. Oh, we got Boots with the $53 Super Chat. Do you do the New Year's resolution thing? If so, what do you have one for 2021? I don't do the New Year's resolution thing. My only resolution is that, you know, everybody that I know and that I love and who's important to me, friends and family, all of you, because it is a dangerous time right now, I feel like. I just want everybody to be healthy and happy and get back on their feet and kind of just get things back to normal so everybody can live their fucking lives without having to worry about everything under the sun. I just want everybody to be okay and do well. I know a lot of people who have lost people with just everything that's been going on this year. And it's almost to the point now where it feels like people are getting numb to it. And that's not good. You know, you hear about this horrible news every day, thousands of people, and it's almost like, well, it's just another day. It's like, how did we get to that point? You know, it's just, it doesn't almost even feel real. So I just want everybody to just be okay and healthy and watch some wrestling and tune in to listen to me bitch about it and, you know, have another great year and just keep growing the show, taking the show to bigger and better heights. Frost757, have you ever tested Jameson or Everclear? Jameson I have, yes. Everclear I don't believe so. Listening to Beanie Man while I'm drinking a rum and Red Bull. Happy New Year, everyone. Awesome conspiracy, buy or sell. Who should have won the WWF title at least once in their career? Razor Ramon, Roddy Piper, or Jake the Snake Roberts? Jake and Piper didn't really need it, but I think it should have been Piper. I think Piper could have had a hell of a heel run as champion. So I got to buy on Piper. Jake didn't really need it, but Jake would be a close number 2. That heel run in 91, man, oh, he was so good. He was so good. But I think if they had the balls to take the title of Hogan early in his run, put it on Piper and have Hogan chase him for it, I think that would have worked too. Monando Boys. What are your top 5 so bad they're good wrestling theme songs? It can be any brand and in random order. Cheers and Happy New Year. Oh boy. So bad they're good. I don't know about top 5. I kind of, when I think back on it, I get Rob Conway's theme stuck in my head because it reminds me of the guy who sang the song from Toy Story. Like, it sounds like the same guy, but it had like I don't know, it had this good beat to it that I kind of liked. God, so bad it's good. Would Jive Soul Bro be considered so bad it's good? I just thought it was great. I thought it was a great song. You know what? The Fabulous Rougeaus. All-American Boys. The Quebecers. Something about Jacques Rougeau having music that's so bad it's good. Those are some of my top picks. Enigma, will John Silver ever be world champion? I don't know about world champion. I think it would take something like what happened with Daniel Bryan, where the fans sort of will it into existence. And to do that, you got to get the fans back in the buildings. You know, never say never, because that guy, man, he is just full of passion. And he was a lot of fun to watch the other night. I will not sit here and tell you that he will never be the world champion, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tougher for him, I think, than it would be the average person, just because he's got, you know, just size-wise, he's not viewed by people, I think, in that way. You'd have to convince people that this guy is at that level where he should be competing. He'd be believable in the ring as a world champion. So I wouldn't say never, but it's kind of a tough sell. Wiz Blue, buy or sell, Carlito or Test? Well, I mean, in terms of the potential they had, Carlito kind of squandered that away. Marcus Brown, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Serengal, do you think 2021 is the year AEW star jumps to WWE? I don't, actually. I get the sense that people in AEW are pretty happy where they are, and I think it's going to be a little while longer before we start seeing people jumping back over or jumping over to WWE. Andrew Reed, what's your favorite Jinder Mahal match? Is that a trick question? I don't think I have one. But if I think of one, I'll let you... Actually, was he in WLC? I know Drew McIntyre was. If he was in the WLC match, it might be the WLC match. Which I guess technically he wasn't really, like, in the match, but if he was part of that in any way, I might go WLC. Oh, I think we're finally caught up. We talked about Paul Heyman. We talked about Boots. Psycho Jet Black. When did you realize that 2020 was going to suck? Oh, I'd say about March. Once the Jericho Cruise was over and we got into March, and I had just renewed my gym membership for $400, non-refundable, and then a week later, everything got shut down, I realized at that point that this year is probably going to suck. So, Enigma, how much would a wrestling super show cost today if it involved New Japan, AEW, and other U.S. independents? No idea, but you're probably looking at a $50 or $60 price point, would be my guess. Powerful one. What is your all-time favorite WrestleMania theme song? Probably the song they were using for the early WrestleMania shows from, like, I don't know, 6 to 8? Or, yeah, I think it was like 6 to 8. It was an instrumental theme. I don't know if it was a Jim Johnson one or not. I love that theme. That theme screams WrestleMania to me. And then there's the actual WrestleMania theme. Oh, WrestleMania. Which is great because at the beginning of the song you hear Jimmy Garvin saying, I said, are you ready for the Survivor Series? And I'm like, why the fuck would they play that at the beginning of a song about WrestleMania? That is Jimmy Garvin, by the way. They brought him in for a test run. He made one appearance, and that was it. They didn't bring Jimmy Garvin back after that. I saw it. It was on the one of the unreleased DVDs they put out years ago. Because I always thought it sounded like Brutus Beefcake, but it's actually Jimmy Garvin. Mikey, buy or sell Scott Steiner against Triple H Royal Rumble or Warrior against Goldust at In Your House? I'm going to go Warrior Goldust, even though that was a complete fucking waste of a match. Because I think it was shorter and less offensive than Steiner and Triple H. What a mess that was. Paul Heyman. I heard Gallows and Anderson were talking smack about me. I can confirm that I put their names on Vince's list to be released. Mwahaha. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it, you lying sack of shit. I knew that it was you behind it the whole time, and now the truth finally comes out. Robert Heller, can Karrion Kross be the next John Cena? He is older than Cena, but is way ahead at this point. Well, I'll tell you, no, I don't believe he will be the next John Cena. And I think we have to be careful when we start making comparisons like that. But the key with him is he's going to have to stay injury-free. If he can stay healthy and not get hurt, I think he's going places. I mean, the guy, he's got the look. He looks the part. He's got the hot girl with him, right? Scarlett just kind of lights up the room. I'm sure Vince loves her. He's got the whole spectacular entrance. I'm surprised Vince didn't rush him up to the main roster when he debuted in NXT. Calling someone the next John Cena, you can't do that. Like, that's just not going to happen. But I definitely think that if he can stay healthy, he's got big things in his future. Sean O'Hare, could I use my own name in wrestling? Yes, you might have to change it a little bit. Jungle Jesus. Wow, Beanie Man is my favorite artist of all time. Respect to Dried Chicken. Caribbean Life. Happy New Year, everyone. Monando Boys, do you think New Japan will troll us with Naito in 2018, or will they finally pull the trigger with Ibushi? I just hope they don't do us dirty. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that, but I'm pulling for Ibushi. I am pulling for Ibushi on this one. And Psycho Jet Black, buy or sell Schwarzenegger or Stallone? Oh, man. So you're comparing Rocky and Terminator, Rambo and Running Man, Predator, and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. This is tough. Total Recall. You know what? I'm gonna go with Schwarzenegger. I think overall, I am more entertained. I've been more entertained probably by more Schwarzenegger movies than Stallone. Even the ones like Jingle All the Way and stuff like that. Kindergarten Cop. I'll go with Schwarzenegger. Awesome Conspiracy. Who would you like to see feud in WWE in 2021? Well, I just said before, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns heading into WrestleMania. Evan Watson, I loved Austin's 2001 heel run, even though it wasn't the best for business, but I thought he was great in the role. What say you? He definitely tried. He tried to get as hated as he could be. They did the whole thing where they beat up Lita and the Hardy Boys. I mean, you can't say they didn't try. When he got hurt, he was doing the comedy stuff with Kurt, and I thought he was great. I thought he was great when he hurt his eye on SmackDown and his eye was all bandaged and they're wheeling him in. He goes, my eye, why'd that man do that to me? I never did nothing to him. Why'd he do that to me? Austin was fucking great. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, he had his moments, but it was a terrible business decision that they made. And it was Austin who pushed for it, so you can blame him. It was his idea to turn heel. Paul Heyman says you look like Kurt Stallion. Mikey says, could Bray against Harper have been a main event feud? I think it could have been. Not a WrestleMania main event, but yeah, I think it could have been a main event feud on one of the two brands for a little while. And Psycho Jet Black, do you think Rich Swann comes off as a scrub? No, I think he's a talented guy. He's the world champion right now at Impact. Scrub is not a word I would use to describe him. And I do believe that we are finally caught up on all of the Super Chats. Yes, we are. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. I told you I'd get through every single question. It has been 3 hours and 40 minutes. I am dying over here. Oh, my goodness, Greg. I am exhausted, man. I am beat. This was a lot of fun, though, hanging out with you guys here on New Year's Eve into the new year. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I hope you got all your questions answered sufficiently. If not, I apologize. But again, I want to just say thank you to everybody who has stuck with me here all night long. How many people we got left? My God. We still got a good audience here. Wow, I'm surprised. I figured a lot more people would have fallen off by now. We still got over 700 people joining us here at almost 2 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time. Out west, I guess it's not yet midnight for you. So I do want to wish all of you guys a very happy new year. And to everybody else who, wherever you may be, if it is already the new year, I wish you all nothing but the best. For as great as 2020 was for the Sound Off, only bigger and better things in the new year. More content on the YouTube channel. The same Sunday show you've come to know and love each and every single week. And more history segments and RSPW rewinds and other ideas that I'm always, trying to think of. And 2021 is going to be our 14th year. I've been doing this for 13 years. 2021 is going to be year number 14. I hope you will come along with me for the ride. We have more super chats coming in, so we are not done yet. We are not finished. These people do not want me to go to bed. They want me to pull an all-nighter. So then there will be no Sunday show this week. Got to take your pick. Want more questions now, or do you want a show on Sunday? Because I got a lot of work on that show to do. Let's see. Let's go to these super chats and see what people are saying. Enigma, I know I come with the obvious questions, but I dig your thoughtful answers. Thanks for your insight and humor through this mostly joyless year. Andrew Kugel, what is your favorite DDP workout? That's a good question. In fact, I'm supposed to wake up in a few hours and do DDP yoga, which probably isn't happening now. But I have, I fell off with it when I hurt my knee in the accident in Colombia a few years ago, and I got back into it in June. I said, look, I'm working from home because of the pandemic. I want to lose a few pounds. It's ridiculous. Why am I not doing this? Let me get back into it. And the thing with the DDP yoga thing is that it's not a weight loss program. It's just that for me is once I got serious about that, all these other things started happening. So then it's like, all right, now I'm tracking what I'm eating and I got a food scale and I'm trying to just, it kind of got the ball rolling for me, but I do it a few times a week, every morning, like every other day. And the new thing I'm on is the double black diamond. I've been doing that. That's the hour and 6-minute one. And it definitely kicks your ass, but I've been doing that. And he's been filming these what he calls the basement tapes in his home, because because of the pandemic, they're not using the DDP Yoga Performance Center. So he's been doing the basement tapes in his home with people, in the background. And I just did a workout with, it was DDP, Brian Pillman Jr., and a couple of other people. I think DDP's new girlfriend. And then the new workout that they uploaded to the app was DDP, Darby Allin, and again, a few other people. And he was yelling at Darby at one point, like, Darby, come on, you gotta get that heart rate up, You gotta, come on, let's go. Let's get into gear here. So, dynamic resistance. But yeah, I'm doing the double black diamond now. Double black diamond is enough for me for now. Naif Al-Safar. Good night, Solomonster. It is 9:45 in the morning there. It's going to be 9:45 in the morning here if I don't get out of here soon. Mikey, but good night, Naif. Thank you for the support, man. Appreciate it. Mikey, buy or sell Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn? Yeah, I like both guys. You're really putting me on the spot here with these questions. You are putting me on the spot here with these questions. I'm going to go Sami Zayn. I'm really digging what he's been doing as a heel. And Jungle Jesus, my first movie of 2021, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not a bad choice. That used to be what I called my Raw review segment on the podcast many years ago. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I stopped doing it because now it's just all ugly. Very little good. But that's a fine movie choice. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Good night, Monando. Good night, Ken Terminated, and Justin, and Cobra Kai, and everybody in the chat. Bryant, who is once again watching Dynamite for the Brodie Lee tribute. If you did miss it, it is worth going out of your way to see. AEW did a tremendous job with that. They should be commended. They should be proud of what they put on Wednesday night. I want you all to shoot me some feedback on Twitter at Solomonster. If you have comments about the stream tonight, you want me to retweet you or just let me know what you thought, at Solomonster is the place to go. The Solomonster@gmail.com is where I take all the email questions. We'll do more of these inboxes. So if you have questions, I'm going to start putting my log together for the next one. That is the place to go for that. The Solomonster@gmail.com. Episode 685 is coming up on Sunday, I hope, if I make it. That's going to be the first sound off, not counting this one, of 2021. So I hope you will join me then. Until then, be well, stay safe. Thank you for joining me for the longest, actually the second longest stream I have ever done. Sound Off 500 on YouTube is the longest at 4 hours and 20-something minutes. I believe this is the second or third, probably the second longest stream I've ever done. And I appreciate you guys joining me for it. Happy New Year, everybody. To hell with 2020. Have a great 2021. We'll see you soon.